You know what's great about Houston? We're always rising. We don't rest on past accomplishments. We look forward to meeting and exceeding new challenges. We're creators, innovators, builders. You build it, Houston builds it bigger. You fly high, we fly higher. And what we build to last. Now it's baseball season, and Houston is building again. It's a new team, a new look, and a new attitude. Houston wasn't built in a day, and neither will the Astros. But the talent is there, so is the passion, the excitement. And in the true spirit of Houston, it's being built to last. Built to excel, built to achieve, built to rise.
Live from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, Comcast Sportsnet Houston brings you Houston Astros baseball. Tonight it's Game 2 of the series and of the season for the Astros. They meet the Texas Rangers tonight. Good evening, everybody. For our debut on CSN Houston, Bill Brown, Jeff Blum, Alan Ashby will be with you for the first couple of weeks of the season as we get used to each other and a brand new team. Alan, there have been a lot of changes since last year.
There have been a lot of changes. Obviously, it's a ball club trying to get younger, trying to get better in the process, and I think it's a ball club that on opening night and even during the course of spring training played very well.
And, Jeff, these young guys are fun to watch.
It is fun to watch. It's good to see these new experiences for these guys. They're going out there with a lot of enthusiasm, and they've got a lot of enthusiasm from their manager and Bo Porter, so it's going to be a fun year.
Let's take you back to a year ago, opening day and the lineup. You'll see Jose Altuve and Jason Castro. Those are the only two guys who advanced to be in the starting lineup for this year's opening day. And it was Altuve leading off, and then Castro, and you see a bunch of other new faces with Bud Norris getting his first opening day start. It went very well for the Astros. And Alan Ashby, we had a big list of stars to choose from that game.
We did, but it was also Bud Norris, who you just mentioned, that got that chance to be the opening night starter, took advantage in full force, pitched very well into the sixth inning. And Bud Norris, a guy who was untouchable in this ballpark a year ago, pitched close to that in this first game, providing a chance to win. Great defense plays a huge part. Justin Maxwell was the heart and center of almost everything that went on. A couple of triples on the night. And then Jose Altuve, last year's all-star for the ball club. A couple of hits on the night. Just playing fine baseball. Had a terrific spring, and it figures to go upward now for Altuve and company.
Some carefully selected older veteran players are in the mix too, Jeff.
Yeah, and I'll talk about those older guys, and these guys are going to be a part of this process that's going on in Houston. Bo Porter, Jeff Lunau have done a great job of hand-picking these guys and putting them on their roster for a reason. Yesterday we saw one of the big reasons was that off-the-bench pop that Rick Ankiel can bring to a ball club, let alone all the experience he's got in the clubhouse. And they're hoping to catch lightning in a bottle with Eric Regard, hoping to get that left arm back in action, and he proved it last night, going 3+ innings for the save.
Coming up from Minute Maid Park as Bo Porter's club gets ready for game number 2 of the season against the Texas Rangers. We'll see if they can build on what they did Sunday night in just a moment.
Saturday night, Bo Porter made his first opening day eve speech, and he grabbed a couple of tables, or he grabbed one table, put it out in the middle of the clubhouse, handed everybody chips, and said, "Place your bid." Well, of course, they were all in. He also asked Brandon Barnes to speak to the team, a guy who wasn't a high prospect, and he was told he would never make it out of A-ball. Well, he happened to make the opening day lineup. So his story going right along with the theory, ignore the noise. And the guys were practicing that mindset on Sunday night. You couldn't really tell who won the game because guys were so businesslike. They were businesslike, and they just did exactly what they expected to do. That was win. All right, coming up, first pitch, we're going to talk more about Lucas Harrell, the starter for the Astros.
Tomorrow as well for the Astros and Rangers playing their first series. They'll meet 18 times this season, and so they will be getting to know each other quite well by the end of the year. And the Rangers, as you know, have done quite well the last few seasons in the American League, and now they have this companion and this rivalry starting perhaps in the American League West. The Astros winning at 8-2 on Sunday. Lucas Harrell now trying to follow what Bud Norris did. And 12-13 his career record, and Ash, he is a ground ball pitcher.
That he is. He was one of the top guys in terms of creating ground balls 1 year ago. It kept the ball in the ballpark. He pitched very well here, not allowing the long ball. 11-11 overall on his season last year, but he is a guy that depends on the ground ball, will pick up his share of strikeouts.
And this game about to begin. The start times are a little bit later this season. 7:10 starts instead of the 7:05. We did have a 7:05 start Sunday night. And the first pitch to the leadoff man, Ian Kinsler, is taken for ball one. Kinsler at .256 last year had 19 homers. A powerful leadoff man, Jeff Plum, with power and speed.
Yeah, he's not your typical leadoff guy, but he does get on base and does drive in runs, and it's tough in this lineup. These guys can drive the ball out of the ballpark, so why not have one at the beginning of the lineup for these guys? But he also does a good job of seeing pitches, working counts, and allowing these guys to get a read on the pitcher early in the game.
There's a jam shot and a foul ball.
One of the things that Kinsler does bring is that power game you guys talk about. As a second baseman, it makes him extremely valuable. Runs well, could steal bags, but he sets himself apart because he does have that pop with the bat.
They talked about moving him to first base this year, and at first he agreed, then he changed his mind. That's a strikeout for Lucas Harrell to open. Starting lineup for the Texas Rangers, who are 0-1 in the early going this season. Ian Kinsler, Elvis Andrus, Lance Berkman, Adrian Beltre, David Murphy, Nelson Cruz, A.J. Pierzynski, a newcomer, Mitch Moreland, and Craig Gentry. Now Harrell, with that strikeout under his belt, moves along to Elvis Andrus, who just signed an 8-year, $120 million contract extension. And he went 0 for 4 in the opener last year. A .286 average with 62 runs batted in. One of the top young shortstops in the game today. But now the question is, what about Jurickson Profar? He's their top prospect, and he's going to play shortstop at AAA Round Rock. Mounted to shortstop, and here's Marwin Gonzalez taking out number 2.
Well, I think what it says, though, when you've got that big contract now for your shortstop, Andrus, it says that Profar is probably going to be looked at as a guy that plays in the infield either at second or at third at some point. I think Adrian Beltre has third base well locked down right now, so I think everybody's going to be looking at Ian Kinsler and see if he does move to first.
Yeah, and I was reading some of those reports, too, and there was even talks of moving Kinsler into left field even to see if he could pull that off a little bit. You know, obviously his power numbers help him go to the corner positions, but it's going to be an interesting next couple of years for these Texas Rangers.
Yep, big decisions. Lance Berkman had 2 hits in the opener in 4 at-bats. He has a 13-game hitting streak here at Minute Maid Park, and the former Astro looks at ball 1. He is the Minute Maid Park leader since this ballpark opened in hits, homers, and runs batted in, and last year had knee problems limiting him to those low numbers. But a very, very dangerous hitter, obviously, when healthy, and it looks like he's healthy this year, Jeff Blum, so far.
Yeah, health is a good thing. I had a chance to talk to Lance before the game and catch up a little bit, and I appreciate him wearing my old number, trying to bring back some of that old fire. But, you know, he's a man of a certain age, and you can tell by the beard that it's starting to gray up a little bit, but he always talks about how much he grinds through the game. But when you have ability like Lance does, you know you're going to play the game at a high level for a long time.
There's a shot into left field. He hit that one sharply to the right of Brett Wallace for a 2-out single here. And the Astros have Carter in left field, Maxwell in center, and Kale in right. It's Wallace, Gonzalez, Altuve, Pena around the infield with Carlos Corporan, the catcher for Lucas Harrell. So what we're seeing here, Alan, is a different lineup for Houston, and I think you're going to see a lot of platooning this year from Bo Porter.
Another thing you see with major league managers early on in the season is try to get as many guys to get into a ball game as possible, get it done early, and then settle into what you want to do for the rest of the year.
Now Beltre, this guy is one of the top hitters in the game, Blummer, and good third baseman too.
No, he is the ultimate third baseman in my book. He's got power, he's got the glove, he's got the extremely good arm across the diamond, and the perfect guy to have in the middle of your lineup. Nice play.
Marwin Gonzalez, long throw, and what a gem! Marwin Gonzalez makes a spectacular play, getting up from the outfield grass to throw out Adrian Beltre. And it's no runs a hit, and the man left for the Rangers, no score.
Nice.
It's brought to you by Jack in the Box. Come to Jack in the Box today and try the new Hot Mess Burger. It's loaded with spicy jalapenos, onion rings, and gooey pepper jack cheese. and by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. It's a dark night outside, but fortunately the roof is working quite well for the Astros and the Rangers for Game 2 of their series. The finale will be tomorrow. It will be a day game with a 1:05 start. We'll check the starting lineup card for Bo Porter for his second lineup as a Major League manager. It's Jose Altuve, Brett Wallace, Carlos Pena, Chris Carter, Rick Ankiel, Justin Maxwell, Jason Castro, Carlos Corporan, Marwin Gonzalez, and Yu Darvish is on the mound. This guy is dynamic.
Had a great finish to 2012. His last handful of starts, very solid work. Didn't walk many people, and that was the big key to some of his problems early in the season.
And he's starting out of the stretch. I wonder if that's predicated by the problems early last year, or if there's something hampering him a little bit. I don't know what that is, but that's odd for...
He employed this style a number of times last year. He felt like it simplified things for him.
Well, it's 2-0.
One of the big things that when you talk to people about Yu Darvish and why did things turn around last year, it was because he kind of simplified his pitch repertoire. He started using the cutter a whole lot more and found that he could throw it for a strike a lot more than some of the other pitches.
2 balls, 1 strike. Jose Altuve would like to walk more often this year, but the Astros aren't focused on that so much as just having him get in good counts and taking good swings at pitches that he can hit.
Yeah, he's a good enough hitter that he can get deep in these counts and work these counts and not panic when he gets to 2 strikes. So it'd be good to see him get later in these counts and get these pitch counts up.
Yu Darvish is a big guy. You don't anticipate that when you're bringing that pitcher, that player from Japan, but he's a big guy, throws hard, he can get it up into the mid-90s at times. But the walks, again, just a huge part of what happened early last year, about 5 per 9 innings. Later in the season, really trimmed that down, and his success improved immeasurably with that improved command of the strike zone.
Full count now for Altuve.
He's always very tough. He was 5th toughest in the major leagues to get a hit off of last year. So if he trims down the walks, he really makes it so there aren't many base runners.
And the sharp breaking ball gets him a strikeout. It's Murphy, Gentry, and Cruz in the outfield for the Rangers. Beltre, Andrus, Kinsler, and Moreland on the infield with Przinsky, the new catcher for Yu Darvish. That's another point, Jeff Blum. You were going up to your old teammate, A.J. Przinsky, who's switched teams now, so he's got to learn this new staff.
Yeah, he's a good guy for it. I think that's one of those things that is totally underrated about A.J. There's so many other things that come along with him when he was playing in Chicago and some of the off-the-field issues with his attitude, so to speak, in the clubhouse. But he's a great guy. I had no problems with him in the clubhouse, and he's done a great job. He didn't get a lot of credit when he was in Chicago for the way he handled that rotation because those guys were so good over there. But he's a quality catcher behind the plate and brings a ton of offense behind the plate for these guys.
Brett Wallace, 253 last season. He was 1 for 4 Sunday night in the opener. He's playing third base tonight. He played first base in the opener, but you and Ash, Jeff, saw him play quite a bit of third this spring.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, actually. And Brett Wallace is not the same guy that was traded over here when I was here. He's literally lost about 30 pounds and made himself a lot more mobile and given Bo some opportunities to put him at third base and plays. And he showed some pretty good range, made some good plays with the glove, and has a strong enough arm, surprisingly, to get the ball across the diamond.
I think seeing Wallace in the lineup at first and at third the first 2 games say that he is going to be slated to play as often as possible, get this bat in the lineup, and have it do the damage that's been anticipated.
That's why Bo Porter really wanted a designated hitter who could play a position as well, and Carlos Pena is holding down first base tonight.
Yeah, that kind of plays into the whole platooning, rotation, trying to find situations. You know, part of the manager's job is to put these guys in situations to succeed. And with the wealth of information that's floating around baseball these days, Bo's probably going to be pretty informed on where to put these guys and when to put them in.
Brownie, we saw the full-size slider to strike out Altuve. That last pitch creating the swing and a miss by Wallace. The little cutter down and in.
Oh.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Wow. And he has what, about 8 pitches he can use, Ash? It's ridiculous.
Well, I heard Somebody say he's got about 29 pitches he can choose from, but they would prefer he cut that down. But that pitch makes you think Mariano Rivera as it just bores into the left-hand hitter's hands.
That is one difficult pitch to hit. Carlos Pena made his 10th career start on opening day on Sunday, moving to the Astros as a free agent after a 197 season with Tampa Bay with 19 homers, 61 runs batted in. The batting average is not the measure of this hitter. He walks a lot, Jeff.
Yeah, patience. He's looking to unload every time he's in that box. There's no reason for him to go in there and start slashing at pitches. He knows what he's in there to do, and it's drive the ball out of the ballpark and drive runners in. So he's going to be selective. He knows what he can drive out of the park, and when he gets it, he's going to unleash on it.
He was 1 for 4 Sunday night. Goes for that one. They play him to pull with Kinsler in the right field shallow area there, well back onto the grass, as you can see, and Andrews up the middle, and a lot of room between second and third.
One of the things I found intriguing about Pena over the course of the spring was how often he tried to go the other way with the baseball, and some of the power he displayed was going the other way.
That's a nice luxury to have. When you know you can drive it out of any part of the ballpark, you're going to be in pretty good shape.
I wonder how much he thought about this ballpark and that left field wall.
I was just thinking the same thing when you said that, because, as you well know, well, that's very, very reachable on a little slicing drive by a left-handed hitter.
Says you've got a guy that's thinking it out, though. The guy that before he ever gets to this ballpark knows what the dimensions are. Now, that said, right field is pretty good haven for all the hitters as well. Don't hit it to center if you want to go deep.
And a lot of hitters look to go up the middle the other way and adjust to the inside. So I'm sure Carlos has enough confidence in his hands to know he can get to a fastball inside. So if a pitcher does make a mistake and hangs that over the plate, he'll be able to drive into that right field stands easy. But if he keeps his mindset going towards left field the opposite way, he should be in pretty good shape too.
I think we saw Rick Ankiel in game 1, that big 3-run pinch hit home run to right field. He got a breaking ball and it goes to right field. But at the same time, you may be thinking back up the middle or the other way if you get a fastball.
It's a good way of keeping your hands back. I did it sparingly, but when I did try and be a reasonably good hitter and things were going really well for me, I was hitting the ball up the middle real well, forced me to get my hands back in a little bit better shape and keep them back and be able to adjust on those hanging off speed pitches.
See a view like that, and Towles Hill has to be awfully lonely at times.
Roller out to Kinsler in right field, and it's out number 3. 0-0 after 1.
You might have noticed the changes in the lineup. The guys have been talking about it tonight. Carlos Corporon is behind the plate. That's because Bo Porter said before the game, Lucas Harrell and Corporon worked really well together during spring, had a lot of good chemistry. So kind of one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, guys.
It has been a good pairing, and there's strike 1 for Lucas to David Murphy. Houston native at 304 last year with 15 homers, 61 runs batted in. Now has become a more prominent man, certainly in the scheme of things, playing left field probably every day, batting fifth in the absence of Josh Hamilton. And you can't put it all on him, Blummer, to try to make up that production, but he has been a very good player.
Yeah, he is a good player, and over the years I know he's been used in platoon situations and sparingly, but over the last couple of years, especially last year, getting a full plate of at-bats, hitting 304, that's a pretty good thing.
Well, you don't even stop there at the 304 batting average. 380 on base percentage. He can slug it as well. 15 dingers on the year. This is a very valuable player.
He fouls it back. It's still a 1-ball, 2-strike count. David Murphy used to attend games in the Astrodome as a kid growing up in the Houston area. He was drafted by Boston in the first round in 03. The Rangers got him in a trade in 07. Went to Klein High School, Baylor University. Of course, he always has a lot of family and friends when he comes to town, and now he'll be coming to Houston 3 times each season instead of once.
Good command being shown by Harrell early. Changeup's been a big part of things. Tried to come with it there.
Now 3-2. Chris Snyder caught Lucas last season, and they were an effective pairing.
I like the pace Harrell brings.
Oh, it's
thinking the same exact thing.
Eric, you'd love to play behind this guy. Out number 1, the Firestone Complete Auto Care Extra Mile Index features 2012's league leaders in innings pitched. Justin Verlander, 238. And yeah, he went 5 innings yesterday. Shutout ball. It was a cold day, and he had pitched 100 pitches and came out of that game. So he was joking about being a 5-and-fly guy after that.
Well, he can joke all he wants now after getting the contract and the Cy Young Award. He's on his own schedule.
Nelson Cruz, another of the powerful Ranger hitters, takes a strike. He had a couple of hits and an RBI opening night.
For Verlander, though, I mean, that's always one of the extremes when you go from Lakeland, Florida to Minnesota, in the matter of 2 or 3 days. I'm sure that the cold weather didn't affect him as much, but I'm sure they were probably a little cautious knowing he was pitching in that extreme climate up there.
Now, wait a minute. Which week are you talking about this year for Florida?
Hey, I like that drop-down pitch there, Ash.
I saw that.
Yeah, he's bringing it from different angles. He's utilizing the changeup. He's delivered a nice little cutter or two. But it's the sinker ultimately that's going to get all the ground balls, or most of them. But yeah, that's an intriguing way to try to come after a big power hitter at Nelson Cruz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's already got enough movement on that sinker. It looked like it kind of exaggerated a little bit when he drops down like that, trying to get inside on Nelson.
Fly ball near the right field line. Rick Ankiel running out of room there, and it's back into the seats. Carlos Corcoran, you guys were down there and talked to him in spring training too. Really worked long and hard on setting up to catch the pitch, and he was working just on setting his eyes behind where the pitch was going, right above his mitt, and that's something he spent a lot of hours on this spring.
I think as a catcher, you always want to have that visual for your pitcher to be exactly what he wants, not what an entire staff may say. And I think that's where you'll see some variance with catchers on occasions. Now, we've been talking about A.J. Pierzynski a little bit. He probably sets the overall tone in terms of a pitching staff. But you get some guys, younger catchers, guys who haven't caught a whole lot, and you might adjust from pitcher to pitcher.
Harrell pounding inside. They appeal the check swing call, and Andy Fletcher rules it's ball 2.
That was a good pitch, a couple fastballs away, and then tried to pump him in. Obviously caught him off guard with that 2-strike pitch, and then put him away with that slider down and away right there.
Strikeout number 2.
The Rockets hope to reign over the Kings and step closer to the playoffs as they make what could be their last ever visit to Sacramento. Rockets Kings tomorrow at 8:30, only on Comcast Sportsnet. Yeah, it wasn't one of my classmates, but Kevin Johnson, ex-Cal alum, is trying to keep them in Sacramento. That should be interesting.
Yeah, very much so. Pierzynski now showing butt. He takes ball 1. A.J. 1 for 4 in the opener. You talked about his good stature as a teammate there with the White Sox for all those years. And now at age 36, he moves on a 1-year deal after hitting 27 homers, driving in 77 runs White Sox said goodbye to him.
Yeah, usually you can blame it on decreasing stats or limited playing time due to injury, but AJ hasn't done any of those things yet. He did everything they could ask for and a little bit more. I know that the Chicago had Flowers in a trade, and they had high hopes for him. So I guess it was time for AJ to move on, which is kind of shocking. He had a great relationship with that city of Chicago.
Yeah, and Flowers homers in that first game. I don't know what he's going to hit for average. He's a big guy with plenty of power. But I think they really lose a big cog when you lose this catcher, Pierzynski, who catches day in, day out.
Drive to center field, pushes Maxwell back a few steps. And Harrell got Murphy on a grounder. He struck out Cruz. He got Pierzynski, and he's allowed one single through 2. Here on Comcast Sportsnet Houston, as the folks watch from that railing, and we've seen a lot of Astros and Rangers fans intermingling in the crowd. What a nice crowd Sunday night, a sellout crowd, and this place was hopping. Chris Carter now will lead it off in the bottom of the second inning. Former Oakland player playing left field for the Astros. This was his first opening day as a major leaguer on Sunday night. And he's really an important part of the Astros offensive plans in that cleanup spot tonight. Fastball, and it's a good one, isn't it, Ash? You know, most people think that maybe Yu Darvish could be the best Japanese-born pitcher when all is said and done to perform in Major League Baseball. What have you thought so far watching him?
Body size, he is cut out to be a Major League pitcher. He's got the arm, and again, a guy that can, on his big nights, go mid-90s with his heater. Seems to have all the pitches, probably has too much. I think the well is probably a little overloaded, but when he kind of carves it down and utilizes what he needs on a given night, this guy can be about as successful as anybody you'll see.
That one takes off upstairs, and it's 2 balls and a strike. Carter usually looks over some pitches. He's not outrageously aggressive, has very good power.
I love watching him as a power hitter. He's not a guy that starts cranking up with the hands flying all over and the body doing a lot of things. Very quiet, and then all of a sudden the bat explodes.
2 balls, 2 strikes. It's always interesting, Jeff, when a player switches leagues, especially a young guy trying to establish himself. It's going to be fun to see what he can do.
Yeah, it is. And coming over from Oakland, a lot of the reports were saying how Chris had a long swing, but you can see from that first side angle that he is cut down quite a bit. I know John Maley's got certain mechanical language that he uses with these guys to reinforce what he's trying to teach. but it looks like his load is pretty minimal, but he is strong through the ball, and he's got enough power in there that he can be short to the ball and still drive the ball out of this ballpark.
Yeah, Jeff, could we ask you to explain some of that terminology that John Maley has?
I am in the process of working on a Maley dictionary.
Oh, nice.
We're going to have to probe a little bit deeper to try and figure out what exactly certain, hot words mean to these guys.
Got to sell big around the ballpark, I'll assure you of that.
3 balls, 2 strikes. Nothing like baseball lingo. And then there's the inside baseball lingo you're talking about, right?
Always goes a little bit deeper, yeah. And part of a hitting coach's job is to find that language, oddly enough, that can communicate to his hitters what he's trying to get them to do in their swing and what to look at. So, sometimes it'll be a phrase for one guy. It'll mean something to Chris Carter, but it'll be completely meaningless to a J.D. Martinez. So he's walking a fine line, but he's done a good job of it so far. I mean, obviously in spring with the power numbers and on-base percentages they were putting up and slugging, he got them working.
Just wondering, Ash, Chris Carter played last year 218 at-bats for Oakland, so he's a player who has not had much Major League time. And guessing that he probably did not face too many guys like you, Darvish, last year, would you say that would be accurate? He probably was taking a seat when somebody like Darvish pitched.
Well, that's intriguing. He played in the American League West. That means he played against the Angels and Jared Weaver, who will give you about as big a crossfire as you'll see. But this slider and combination of pitches from Darvish, awfully tough. I think that there's a lot to be considered about that question, though. Is he game ready for all of the big names now that he's going to face as he bats in the 3 and 4 spots for the Astros?
Right. This is his first at bat against Darvish. And that kind of a breaking ball is going to make it tough for a lot of hitters. Rick Ankiel belted that 3-run pinch homer to really change the fabric of the game, taking it from a 4-2 lead to 7-2 as a pinch hitter against Derek Lowe Sunday night. And there's a strike to him. What a thrilling moment. That was his 5th career pinch hit homer. And this place went nuts.
I think it's a credit to Rick Ankiel's demeanor too, and some of the processes he's had to go through, being able to take it, sit on the bench opening day, give it to Brandon Barnes because of the left-handed pitcher, and have no qualms about coming off the bench and hitting that big home run. It says a lot about his character and what team means to a guy like this.
I think there are times in a career where things start to mean more to you. And I am not so sure that that's not the case with Rick Ankiel right now. I think that this is a very special opportunity.
And he's another of those players who had a relationship with Bo Porter from their Washington National days. We talked earlier about him being one of those carefully selected players. Carlos Pena, another, because Bo knew him very well and because of that background in the St. Louis organization, and then the conversion to outfield. So he's had kind of a hard knock life, you might say, in terms of doing something that not too many guys have to do. Switch positions.
I wonder how difficult it was for Ankiel with that great arm of his as a pitcher to sit back and not have a chance to really swing the bat a lot. Yep. Because I have a feeling with what we've seen in his career as a hitter that he had to be thinking, I'm better than this guy.
Yeah, and he has been better than a lot of them. But trying to reestablish himself this year, and that Sunday night blast may go a long way.
How many times can a guy reestablish himself? Good grief.
Right.
Got 9 lives, but he's taking advantage of it. And it's all about opportunities. And Rick Ankiel, like Alan said, he recognizes that and is relishing it.
Justin Maxwell also had a night to remember Sunday night. After a .229 season last year, 18 homers, 53 runs batted in. He had 2 triples, drove in 2 runs, made 2 spectacular catches. And he is in select company among those who have 2 triples in opening day games in the majors.
Jeff, I don't know what your thoughts are, but when you see a ball club that maybe goes out on a given night and says, we're going to take some pitches early, force this guy to work, and then you wind up behind in the count continually and put away 4 strikeouts of the first 5 outs here, do you change that plan right away and say, you know what, we need to start swinging the bat early on this guy?
Well, I was just thinking that because the first I mean, these first two guys in this inning, he's pumping fastballs on that outside corner, getting ahead in the count, and he's abusing it right now. We'll talk about it later.
And he struck out the side to give him 5 in the first 2 innings, and a perfect 2 innings for Darvish. No score. On the Oakland A's, first pitch is at 6:10. The first 10,000 fans will receive an inaugural AL West baseball. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com to get your tickets today. Mitch Moreland leads it off, and I have a story for you guys about inaugural baseball from Sunday night. My daughter and 3 grandchildren were sitting, and a son-in-law, in the stands here Sunday night. And this gentleman went over to the team store and bought about 10 of those inaugural baseballs and just gave them to the kids in the section. Didn't know them. Nobody knew him. There's Moreland taking strike 1. He was 0 for 4 in the opener Sunday night. And somebody said, well, why are you doing this? He said, somebody did it for me when I was a kid, and now whenever I go to a major league game, I try to do this for the kids sitting in my section.
Wow. Very magnanimous. My stories probably would be about when you're young and you stand around the railing and you want to get some autographs, and then there's that one guy that comes over and provides the autographs for the kids, and that's that magic moment. But that's very special with the souvenirs as well.
It really is. 2 balls and a strike to Moreland. Moreland had a big spring, hit .377, 4 homers, 14 runs batted in. So some talk about moving Kinsler to first. Kinsler initially agreed and then decided not to, but Moreland is the beneficiary now, because it looks as if he might be about to break out if he's able to do something close to what he did in spring training.
You know, you talk, Brownie, about those special moments and being a kid and maybe getting grabbed by this game. When I was a kid, Sandy Koufax was one of my idols out in L.A. Had a chance to see a couple of his no-hitters, one of those a perfect game. Sandy Koufax yesterday called upon to go to the mound and take over for Magic Johnson and throw out the first pitch for the Dodgers against the Giants. I thought that was very cool.
It really was. And what a game for Kershaw, who is the Sandy Koufax of 2013. Altuve lays out for it, and the throw to first. Pena with a dig. They get him. Spectacular play by Altuve and Pena to rob Moreland.
Great play, ranging to his left, keeping the ball under control, a little spin move, throwing a pick. That was a great play all the way around.
Got to looking at some of the defensive ratings on guys, and this is always going to be subjective, but you can see on this play, this is very good range, and then that athletic ability to be able to right the ship and make the throw to get the out. But there are some who created that WAR category, the defensive WAR category, who were not all that enamored apparently with Jose Altuve a year ago. But this play might go ways to changing some opinions.
Well, they might have to put out a new book. Now Craig Gentry takes ball 1.
I agree.
Now, those books constantly have to be revised, don't they, Jeff?
Yeah.
There's a shot, and it's a fair ball. It kicks, a fan grabbed it, so that'll be ruled a fan interference double. by Andy Fletcher, the first base umpire, and he has the right to decide where he thinks the runner would have gone had the fan not reached over and touched it. And that means Gentry's at second with one out.
Well, what Gentry has going for him himself, rather, is the fact that he runs extremely well. Now, if I hit this ball down the right field line, number one, it's huge news at this stage of things. But as sharply as it's hit, you're going to be going by the first base bag trying to beat out a throw in that direction. This ball had a chance to make some guys really think about second base.
Yeah, the way that grading is down there, that fence, it's pretty hard to steal, and the ball gets a pretty good kick off that thing sometimes.
Off Wallace's glove, and that will be run down by Marwin Gonzalez. Gentry holding at second as Kinsler reaches.
One of those building blocks for the Houston Astros, at least defensively at this point, Matt Dominguez at third base. And I think any time that you happen to be in Brett Wallace's shoes and you're moving from first to third and you get a chance to play and then something doesn't go right, there's always that concern that you're going to be compared with a guy that's considered to be very strong defensively.
And to Brett's credit, he was playing in a little bit on the end. Not a great bunt situation for a guy like Ian Kinsler, because the guy's at second base, one out. Ian Kinsler in this ballpark could put a two-run spot on you in a hurry. But playing in like that really cuts down on the amount of range, and it's tough to read that ball that quickly off the bat and get your footwork in place in order to make that play.
It was ruled a hit. Now Andrus calling time. Andrus grounded to shortstop in the first. Though 3 hits now for the Rangers. And Harrell looks for a double play ball to get out of this.
Yeah, and on the bright side, that ball did keep Gentry from advancing at base right here.
As a runner at second base, your first move on that ground ball has to be at bare minimum to freeze, maybe even beyond that, a step back toward the bag.
Rangers a very powerful offensive team, of course, last year, but no Hamilton now. 2 balls and no strikes.
I think Robinson Cano is happy to hear that Andrus signed for that kind of money.
You know it. He fired his agent. Did you see that?
He's going the Jay-Z route.
Yes, he is.
That's going to be interesting.
Very. Boy, does that guy have some value, though.
Yeah, especially in that New York market. I think, part of the reason that maybe that did happen is because of that New York connection, maybe sending a little bit of a message saying, yeah, I do want to get paid, but I also want to stay in New York.
Who has more value in New York, Cano or Jay-Z?
Well, I've seen your iPod, Alan, so you tell me.
Now Doug Brocail and Bo Porter hoping Lucas Harrell can come up with something here at 3-0. And the bases are loaded. Lance Berkman back in Texas now as a member of the Rangers after being traded by the Astros to the Yankees for Mark Melancon and Jimmy Paredes, and then the Astros traded Melancon to the Red Sox for Lowry and Weiland. Lowry traded to the A's for Carter and Peacock.
Our own Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Red Peacock will be pitching Friday night.
Now, have you ever checked to see if you have 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon?
No.
Me personally? No, I have not.
For many of us, Ash, being 6 degrees from Bacon is not a good thing.
Depending on the bacon. Now, with a little pepper on it,
well played,
I could go for that.
Now Berkman, he hit it sharply for a single to left field. Now this one crowds him. There's strike 1.
Lucas Harrell's been working on that inside edge from the left-hand hitters, and he hasn't gotten a whole lot of calls. Finally gets one here.
That's a good way to start the at-bat, too. Sorry, Browning.
Yeah, he's a .432 hitter against Houston. Okay, now this is interesting, Blummer. You drop down. Usually right-handed pitchers don't do that to a left-handed hitter. Why do you think he did that?
I don't know. I think he was, obviously you're changing the arm angle to hopefully change the vision of the hitter, but at the same time, he already knows you've got a sinker, and it's running away from the left-handed hitter. I think it's more effective for the right-hander because it's going to bore in on him a little bit. Comes back nice with that sinker over the outside part of the plate, but really no effect, maybe just to throw him off a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a ground ball inducer, trying to drop down, create a little extra sink, get a ground ball, and get out of the inning.
Okay.
And I know some guys in recent history have dropped down to throw that so-called Laredo slider, and I don't know if you're trying to throw him off, maybe get him thinking of that slider, and then throw the sinker, but, I mean, we could be getting a little too deep into this thing.
That's what we do.
That Laredo slider, the Frisbee, and you don't see a lot of ground balls, at least from left-hand hitters on the Frisbee. So I would think at this point we're trying to get a ground ball.
That'd be good.
One thing Lance does not have anymore, and that would be great speed.
But the DHing could really help him because of the knee problems he's had in recent years. Slapped into left field. They'll get one run home. Stop sign. And the bases are loaded with a 1-0 Ranger lead. Berkman drives in his first as a Ranger.
Sometimes you get exactly what you're trying to get, the ground ball, but it finds a hole, and it's just the nature of this game. Well, look at that last at bat through our pitch-by-pitch, presented by Steel Dealers, and continuing to try to pick away at the corners. He was very successful even on the last pitch, but that's just great hitting by a guy who's been a very good hitter for a long, long time.
Now the key for Lucas Harrell is to limit the damage here, but it's Beltre batting with the bases loaded and 1 out. And that's a challenge for anybody. He was victimized by the outstanding Marvin Gonzalez play. Chases one there for strike one.
A lot of people talk about the Rangers and can they make up for the loss of offense from Josh Hamilton being gone. A lot of that just simply lies in the lap of Lance Berkman. Does he have the kind of year where he rebounds considerably? The Rangers could be just as strong offensively as they've been.
Check swing call. He checked it.
Yeah, watch that one from the side.
Boy.
That bat was waving.
I love the fact that he points down and checks his own swing.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Me, I was turning my back trying to hide from the first base umpire and things like that. No way I'm going to check myself.
Maybe they bought him a call.
Put him on the spot.
If he was convinced that he didn't go, and he's asking.
Now that's Andy Fletcher down at first base, and it was Andy Fletcher that at second base in game one had a couple of certainly disputable calls that replays obviously indicated that he did not get it right.
Technically, Ash, a hitter can't ask an umpire for ruling on that, can he?
Well, I think that the rules are in flux right now. I'm not sure why, as Jeff insinuates, that a hitter would ask for that unless he's just afraid that everybody obviously at the plate knew he did swing.
Maybe he's threatening him. He's kind of like, if you call this, I'm going to,
Yeah, I'm not so sure I didn't swing right there. Check that one.
Yeah, just for good measure.
That's a conversation you don't often hear at home plate.
He's got that brim pulled down tight over his eyes, too.
Yes, he does.
Adrian's always been an interesting guy. I mean, he obviously goes out there and plays the game for the love of it, and it comes out in the way, a lot of his antics and stuff like that. He's always been a good guy to talk to when you're standing on third base, but he's got the happy feet in the box, takes a full hack and hits homers on one knee, points for the check swing, so always entertaining.
And he's worked the count to 3-1 now.
No doubt a frustrating inning for Lucas Harrell. He's gotten a couple of ground balls that could, on many nights, have gotten him out of this inning. But right now, he's got to get one of the game's big hitters with the bases juiced and just 1 out.
Kinsler, Andrews, and Berkman, the base runners. And a little chop goes foul.
There's your drop down once again, but with the right-hand hitter this time.
Yes. 3-2, bases loaded, 1 out.
You see Wally kind of creeping into that no man's land, at least for me, having played, with these big boppers up. I like playing way back. I mean, I know this double play makes it a little more iffy, but these middle lineup guys are a little bit slower, take bigger swings, and have a tough time getting out of the box. But I like playing back a little bit. Nice pitch.
Or a strikeout for Harrell, number 3.
But you're trying to cut down on, doubles, things like that. You get stuck in that in-between spot. It could make it interesting, turn easy ground balls into hard ground balls, but right there, Lucas Harrell took care of him for us.
You feel like in that scenario where you're looking for a double play that you can play back?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I can. Yeah, I feel like I luckily had relatively decent hands and a good arm, but you got to look around the diamond. You got Lance Berkman at first base, doesn't run well. Adrian Beltre getting a little bit older, takes big swings, goes down to a knee sometimes on his swing. So if he takes a monster hack, there's going to be some time to get the ball to Altuve and have him relay it across to Carlos.
I've always felt like third base was a very difficult position to play because you get yourself in between on that second hop so many times where I wonder, as a third baseman, do you feel like there's a safe spot where you can get away from that in-between hop?
That's exactly it. Yeah, I felt more comfortable deeper. I always felt it was easier for me to go in on the ball as opposed to trying to backpedal and play that long hop. It was easier on my footwork, but sometimes, the ball's going to find you at third base. The balls get hit down there pretty hard. You don't have the time to get the footwork down, but you try and give yourself the best opportunity.
Now 3-1 to count on Murphy. Harrell fell behind. Beltre came back to strike him out, and now he has the bases loaded. 2 outs. You need to pull off some magic against Murphy as well. Cruz on deck. To left field, Carter backing. And Lucas Harrell really does a job. After giving up the Berkman RBI single, he gets Beltre and Murphy, leaving the bases loaded. 1-0 Rangers. Saturday morning at 9:30 on CSN. Chevy Hometown Kids, where it's not about the score, but the experience. Good experience tonight for those folks. 1-0 ball game as we go to the bottom of the third, and Yu Darvish has really held the Astros spellbound, striking out 5 of the first 6 men. He now has a little run support and goes against the 7, 8, 9 hitters. Jason Castro, the DH, is the number 7 man. He'll be followed by Carlos Corcoran and Gonzalez Marwin batting ninth. Castro 0 for 4 on opening night. He called a good game. Anytime you limit the Texas Rangers to 2 runs, that's a pretty good defensive game. Rolled out slowly to Ian Kinsler. 1 pitch, 1 out for Darvish.
Well, Yu Darvish to this point, 7 outs into the ball game, looking like a guy that should be considered one of the dominant pitchers in baseball. That slider can be so filthy. He's gotten on top of it for a strikeout. He's created the little small cutter. That probably in that cutter range, there's the over-the-top job for the strikeout. But he can spot that fastball very well. And a guy with great stuff. When he is finding the corners, you're going to find yourself a rather tough night.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When a guy's painting like that, then has 2 devastating breaking balls like he's working tonight, you're going to have some issues.
He is a buzzsaw so far, retiring the first 7. Now 29-year-old Carlos Corcoran from Puerto Rico. 269, 4 homers, 13 driven in last year. This year his first time on an opening day roster. And Darvish missing, ball 1. Tomorrow it's Alexi Ogando for the Rangers. Philip Humber makes his Astros debut. He'll have family and friends we'll be watching him for the 105 start. He's first as an Astro for the former Rice Owl. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Astros got some pretty good starting pitching over the course of the spring. I thought Philip Umber was among those who pitched extremely well.
Yeah, he did a great job. Found that arm angle. Was able to work on some things. And with the success he's had in the state of Texas, it should be a pretty good year for him.
2 balls and a strike.
Forget Texas. How about in Seattle?
That went well.
Yeah, he's got to be happy to going to that ballpark a couple more times than normal.
Well, we'll be heading out on the first road trip of the year Sunday. It'll be a 3-city trip for the 3 of us. And Seattle's the starting point of that one. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Oh, there's a fastball right through the gut of the plate, and you get the swing and a miss. If you're hitting and you're not handling this pitch, you're likely in trouble.
Yeah, I was just saying, when a guy's going good and you get that one heater down the middle, don't miss it.
Foul ball keeps the count at 2-2 for Yu Darvish, who had a 16-win season last year. He lost 9. He had a 3.90 ERA.
Corcoran did a good job of fighting off that dirty slider down. See what happens here. 2-2 if he throws it again or if he tries to beat him with that fastball away.
Was it dirty enough to be filthy?
Almost.
Yeah. Just a little dirty.
Just a little.
We'll tap back to Darvish. And that's 8 in a row set down by the 26-year-old from Osaka, Japan. He said he lost weight and gained muscle in his upper body over the winter.
Yeah, but who doesn't have that story going into spring training?
That's a good one to go in with.
Yeah. How many guys come in and say, well, I gained weight and I lost muscle mass?
I had a bad off season with all the holidays, you know.
I ate a tub of brownies every night for dinner.
Oh, that's the broadcaster line.
I really tried to load up. I was working on my girth the entire offseason.
I love the stories. I mean, they're all the same. Everybody has done exactly what they needed to get in the perfect shape.
Strike for Marwin Gonzalez. He was the opening day shortstop last year for the Astros as a Rule 5 draft pick. Very versatile player. He can play anywhere on the infield, and in fact, he can fill in the outfield if needed. Good glove man.
I like these types of guys.
Yes, you do.
Gotta have them. You gotta have them.
You can make a pretty good living doing that, Plummer.
So good for Marwin. He obviously saw it earlier in the game with that great play at shortstop deep in the hole, showing that arm.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be that guy, the great defensive guy, you've got to have that home run ability for a big game situation, maybe like a World Series or something like that.
That's true.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure everybody watching this broadcast appreciates that. Coming back up again, Ash.
Astros killer.
What a world.
Hits that one sharply. Well, Marwin had that Jeff Blum feeling over the weekend when he connected. He hit one out to right field in one of the final exhibition games. Bud Norris 1-0.
Yeah, I'm not too sure you want to take a swing at that guy right now.
And Eric Bedard finished it for Bud with a 3 1/3 inning save. Marwin swings and he strikes out. This is number 6 of the night. 9 up, 9 down for Yu Darvish. 1-0 Rangers.
methane. And Rangers skipper Ron Washington has actually been a good source for Bo Porter. Porter said that when Washington got his job with the Rangers, he was one of the first few people to call and congratulate him. And then when Porter got his job with the Astros, vice versa. Also, he's been a good source for just advice in general. He said that when he was interviewing for jobs before he got the one with the Astros, when he didn't get one, Washington would call him and say, hang in there. When the right opportunity comes, it'll be the right one for you, guys.
Texas 1, Houston nothing. And the fourth inning gets underway with Nelson Cruz taking strike 2 there. No balls, 2 strikes for Lucas Harrell. It's 1-2. Cruz, 32 years old, hit 24 homers last season. Out to center field. Maxwell's running out of room all the way back to the wall. Leaping, and Maxwell brings it in.
Justin Maxwell has been playing some kind of defense early on here, first couple of games. There was an instant there where Maxwell deked me anyway, where it looked like he had decided this ball was getting out. But then he kind of dug in a little bit more and got back to make the play. When you can save your pitcher from these big hits, you make such a difference defensively.
Yeah, it's huge, especially after Lucas threw so many pitches last inning to battle to get out of that situation he put him in. Justin did a great job of keeping that ball from bouncing off the wall and going for extra bases. But yeah, he had a great read on that ball going back, knowing your ballpark, but it almost looked casual.
He did. The way he turned his shoulders, and he didn't really lose a step, did he?
Not at all.
Strike to Pierzynski.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning also, you bring up Lucas Harrell in that third inning. I thought he battled about as well as a guy could battle, making a lot of close pitches, got a couple of ground balls. They didn't help him. And when it was all said and done, after falling behind in some counts, he worked the edges to get some big outs.
You're right. Not giving in right there turned out to be a pretty good thing. Some guys can get a little nitpicky and a little afraid of trying to live on that edge and leave things out over the plate. But he did a great job of sticking to his game plan and making pitches.
Pierzynski's hit by that pitch. Up around the right elbow. Now Moreland.
Well, that looks like a valuable use of that padding.
Yes, it
does. At that last instant, just kind of hanging there, maybe even extending.
That's AJ being AJ right there.
Yeah,
yeah, you could see there was he left it out there. You know, it wasn't enough to be, forcing it out over the plate and getting called back or anything like that. But that's AJ playing baseball.
I'm not a big fan of that elbow guard because it does provide guys a chance to do just that.
Well, that center field angle gave us a good shot of showing that elbow is actually hanging over that inside corner right there. And if you've got that pad on it, you've got no fear of leaving that thing out there.
Ball 1 to Moreland.
If you can't come up and in, then it takes a big part of that strike zone away from most pitchers. Maybe not so much with Lucas Harrell.
Yeah, you watch on this replay, you can kind of see AJ notice it coming in and kind of leaves it out there just a little bit longer than you would had hoped. But most guys shy away from contact. But when you got that monster pad on there, why not leave it out there and get on base for your guys?
It looked like he knew the wing had a chance of taking one for the team.
Bouncer Harrell. Gonzalez. And on to Pena for an inning-ending double play. And in the middle of the fourth inning, it's 1-0 Rangers.
Lucas Harrell, the heart and center of this. He creates the ground ball to get the pair. But look at this throw right up over the bag. Gives his infielder a great chance. And that's what you ask for. The pitcher's fielding practice goes on nonstop. Just throw it up over the bag chest high. Give your infielder a chance. But so often it turns into quarterback trying to lead receiver, and the throw is not a good one.
I agree, and that's where you run into problems when you start trying to throw to moving objects instead of giving him that stationary base and just throw it over the base. Those guys at short and second, they're great enough athletes. They know the play's coming their way, and they're good enough to get out there and make the play.
Really nice to see it done well.
Jose Altuve takes a slider up, and it's 1 ball, no strikes, and he struck out on a 3-2 pitch back in the first inning. Darvish has fanned 6 of the first 9. He was 5th in the American League in strikeouts last year, with 221 and 191 innings, averaging 10.4 for 9 innings. That's the second best average. And he's up with that pitch as well. It's 2-0 to Altuve.
Yeah, let's see if we can do something the second time around against you, Darvish. That first time around was a little ugly, but hopefully we maybe saw some tendencies or picked up on a little something out of the windup, and maybe these guys can make the adjustment.
Darvish is 6'5", Altuve 5'5". In the air, foul and out of play.
For me, the first adjustment I would go after offensively is let all the guys know, look, he's throwing strikes. He's putting hitters away with either good breaking balls or pitches right on the edges. Let's go after some early fastballs if you get them.
Darvish had very good numbers for spring training with a 1.98 ERA. Rangers pursued Zach Greinke for a while over the winter. That makes it 2-2.
Here's that 95-mile-an-hour cheese, and it's right at the knees, and it rides over the bat.
Yeah, there's no fear in his motion right now, and anything he wants to throw up there right now in the zone is working.
Red Wallace on deck. Carlos Pena due up third. Altuve flicks it back.
You almost wonder with some of these swings and the way these guys are fouling off some of these pitches and swinging over the top, if him pitching out of the set position's messing with the timing a little bit.
Yeah. Some guys are you know, they'll tell you they live to hit with men in scoring position. I think those stats tend to vary from year to year, but it is a little different look when you see the guy in the stretch move.
And there you saw he can hold for a little bit longer. Out of that set position, he can hold for really long. There's nobody on base, so he can come at you kind of quick. Whereas in a windup, you know, as soon as he steps back, brings his hands up, he's coming in motion to get you at home plate. But coming out of the set, you really have no idea when he's going to come at you.
You know, the Astros without a base runner yet against Darvish, but he is ready when they do finally get a man on first.
Altuve's down on strikes.
It's a whole new ball game for the Houston Astros, and prorated season ticket packages and flexible mini packages are available now. To learn about all the exclusive benefits and pricing, call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com.
The people who came out Sunday had just a marvelous time. They got the season started very well for many Houston fans. Brett Wallace comes up now. He struck out in the first inning. Just wondering from you guys about, you know, Darvish's velocity does not seem to be hampered at all from the stretch compared to the windup. And yet a lot of pitchers would tell you very quickly they prefer the windup for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Usually guys out of the windup do lose a little bit of velocity, but for whatever reason, I'm sure being 6'5" and having that nice lanky whipping arm isn't hurting at all. But yeah, he's found a way to create great velocity out of that set position.
And who's to say he hasn't lost some velocity? He's been up to as much as 95, but from the windup, he conceivably could be higher.
More in the tank.
Well, we're seeing now why the Rangers pursued him for that $60 million deal for 6 years to replace C.J. Wilson in their rotation. Wilson moved on to the Angels.
Good grief, he's got it all working right now.
Takes a little off on that slow curveball right there. He's been hard with the cutter, takes a little off of that with the slider, spotting fastball as well.
Wallace taps the foul.
There was a little peek at what you were talking about, Jeff. He has slowed down at times from the stretch, but that time after coming set, very quick to the plate, as if he maybe had a base stealer on base.
Yeah, it's tough to anticipate. And that, that messes with the hitter's rhythm. You see Brett's got his hands out away from his body, so there's a certain trigger in his swing that tells him when to get those hands back. And if you was coming out of the stretch like this, he could come at any second, so it's almost a knee-jerk reaction to get those hands back, and that'll mess with your swing.
Now 1-2 strike count.
There's your 97. So he's just loosening up right about now.
I think he's listening to us too. Hang the slider.
He's thrown only 54 pitches.
He gets great life on the fastball, whether it's at 93, 95, 97. You can see hitters are just not getting to it.
Wallace hits one foul. Still 1-2 to Brett.
That slider probably plays a big part in that, though. If you're seeing a lot of breaking balls, you're seeing that a lot of the strikeouts are on variations of breaking pitches. Fastball's tough to look for and get to.
Especially when you got to get ready for 97.
Yeah.
It's tough knowing when they have that in the tank and then they can break off a slider any second like he can.
97 requires that dial is well turned up.
Wallace battles, keeping the count of 1-2 strikes with Carlos Pena on deck. Rangers have a couple of starting pitchers who are down, coming back from surgery. And so they're going to buy some time until they get those guys back. Maybe mid-season for Colby Lewis and Neftali Feliz.
Decent pitchers.
Yeah. They're opening with a 4-man rotation. They have 7 relievers. Wallace, strikeout victim number 8.
Yeah, it's funny, a lot of times in the dugout, what you hear hitters that come back to the bench saying is, he's got nothing. We'll get this guy. And I'm kind of wondering what the commentary is right now in the Astros dugout. Breaking ball has been dynamic.
It has, and you can see it right as Brett is starting to take his swing. When he's about ready to try and make contact with it, it seems like 15 feet in front of the plate, that thing starts to break and goes right under his bat.
Have you ever found a way to explain why some guys are hard to pick up and other guys you can see it easily?
I have no idea. I know that Darvish, I know Roy Oswalt wasn't to the stature that Yu Darvish is, but they have a similar fastball and a similar slider. And I just think the way they get so down in their windup and create that angle. And like you said, that late life on their fastball, it almost looks like it's rising, but they just pitch on a different plane that you cannot pick up as a hitter.
It's not so much the downward plane that you hear a lot of guys talking about that they want to be able to achieve, but kind of dropping down and creating a flatter plane.
Yeah, when it comes out of his hand, there's no depth to it.
Right.
It's just coming straight at you. It's almost like, it looks like visually it's picking up speed as it gets closer to you.
Yet we listen to pitching coaches and managers talk nonstop about the depth and the angle and all the stuff his pitcher created on a given night. You really can't realistically say this about Yu Darvish.
Yeah, but right now, if you're one of the reserves, you might be a little bit thankful.
Not a bad night to get a night off.
Try and catch you with a second go around on an off night, hopefully. But
1-2. Well, could go back to last year in Matt Cain's game against the Astros. This is looking like the early stages of that.
Watch a guy like Carlos Pena with a natural uppercut. You're just going to have a hard time getting to this riding fastball.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the books on Carlos, is that high heater's having a tough time laying off in it. Like you said, the uppercut combined with that high noise is going to not be good. Oh
my. Again, he strikes out the side as he did in the second inning, and that is 9 strikeouts among the first 12 batters faced by Yu Darvish, who was perfect through 4 with a 1-0 lead. that hat so we can outfit ourselves for the upcoming road trip, Jeff.
His dad looks pretty happy he wore that to the ballpark.
Oh, yes.
Gosh darn it, son. What did you do that for?
He's just angry because that's his hat.
Oh, I'm not with him. No, he's someone from another family. Greg Gentry leads it off here in the 5th inning. He doubled and scored the run in the 3rd, the only run of this game, on the single by Lance Berkman. 4 hits for the Rangers. No base runners for the Astros, so that makes it tough for Lucas Harrell, who had to work out a bases loaded trouble in the 3rd inning with 1 out, getting Beltre and Murphy. And he hit Przinsky with a pitch, but followed that up with a double play ball in the last inning.
Lucas Harrell made what I thought was a very mature comment coming into this start. He said, I'm not facing Yu Darvish. I'm facing the Texas Rangers hitters, and they're a tough bunch. But I think the deeper you get into a game like this, despite how well Lucas Harrell may be able to pitch, ultimately he is going to face Yu Darvish when he has a night like this going.
Yeah, it's a pretty good matchup so far.
Gentry takes it, and it's strike 3. Strikeout number 4 for Harrell.
That inside corner is starting to pay off. If you keep pumping at that inside corner where it's hard to get strikes called, eventually the umpire will loosen up a bit, and that's what we're starting to see.
Yeah, he did a good job of setting him up right there, too. Locked him up. That ball was moving in great.
Harrell is at 76 pitches. Darvish has thrown 61 through 4. Kinsler is 1 for 2. Got hit off Fred Wallace's glove. Ball 1 to Kinsler. The Rangers last year won 93 games. They lost 69. And they faded. They really wilted at the end of the race.
Of epic proportions, yeah.
So that was a tough way to go home after they lost that 1-game playoff to Baltimore after that 93 and 69 season, which could have been their 3rd World Series appearance. And as many years had they taken that full term and done well, but now here they are coming back with a little different crew this season. And last year they led the majors in runs scored with 808. Chopped to shortstop. Marwin Gonzalez without number 2. So there they were, positioned very well, Jeff Blum, at the end of the year. 4-game lead, September 25th, 178 days in first place. That was the most days since divisional play began in '69. A team had been in first and not won the division.
Yeah, that'll gnaw at you a little bit over the off season, trying to think about how things unfolded, dwelling on some of that late season. I just can't. You look at the number; it's amazing. Look at 178 days in first place, and end up in a 1-game playoff, lose that 1-game playoff, and end up going home and thinking about that for the whole offseason. So there might be a little bit of a chip on their shoulder in this AL West this year.
They came out of the blocks last year. First month looked like the best team, bar none, in all of Major League Baseball. They were getting every aspect of the game. And then they kind of flattened out as you look at the rest of the season. At the end, they cratered entirely, and the Oakland A's came out of nowhere, a ball club that nobody, I would dare anybody to say they anticipated that the A's would be anywhere near as good as they were.
Yeah, pretty good tortoise in the hare analogy right there, watching these guys explode out of the gates with the firepower that they have, and just steady Eddie up in Oakland. For whatever reason, they found it late in the season and pushed on by them.
And with 5 rookie starting pitchers at the end of the year, that was truly something that was not forecast by very many people. Now, can Oakland come out again and be a contender? That's one of the questions about this year. Fly ball out to right center field. This could be a gapper. It's going to fly for a while, and it bounces and goes off the bullpen fence. And now Andrews turns for third base, and he has a stand-up triple. First hit of the year for Elvis Andrews.
It's not easy to find that major league shortstop that can play the position and play it extremely well, and at the same time do the other things offensively. Hit with some pop, run the bases, but that's who Elvis Andrews is. And you can see why they locked this young guy into a long term now. The Rangers trying to tie up some of those very talented players they have.
Yeah, it was a good move, and I think it's surprising. I was looking at his numbers. He's driven in 60 runs in the last 2 years. I mean, I understand that their lineup is stacked and they've got a lot of guys that get on base, but still, even so, you got to be a pretty good hitter to drive in that many runs out of the leadoff spot.
True.
Or even the second spot, I'm sorry.
Lance Berkman's 2 for 2 with an RBI in this game. 2-out triple by Andrews. Gets Berkman a runner at third here. That was hit number 5 for the Rangers. They've left 4. Berkman looks at ball 1. Lance said his mom and dad are here tonight.
Got to be proud to be the parents of the big Puma, don't you?
Oh, yeah. 2 balls, no strikes.
What about it when, of course, everybody wants to call Lance Fat Elvis? Not sure where that comes from. Lance is very undeserving.
Well,
he's got impressive jowls.
Yes.
He may have tagged himself with that one, knowing Lance.
Well,
good stop there.
You know, he tried to divert everybody with the big Puma comment to get off the Fat Elvis. And it stuck, luckily for him.
What an honest guy he is. He will not feed you the pablum. He'll come at you with the real story.
Intentional walk coming here now after the count went to 3-0. And Beltre will come up with a fresh count. That was the 7-3 ball count of the night for Harrell.
Yeah, and this will be an interesting matchup. Harrell's had pretty good success against Adrian the first 2 ABs, punched him out the last AB. But Adrian's one of those guys that didn't give in to the collapse of last season, finishing strong. But right now it's going to be a great matchup.
Beltre now 5 for 9 lifetime, including the 0 for 2 tonight against Harrell. He came up with the Dodgers. There's a strike to Beltre.
Nice to get that call to start with right there on the inside corner.
Beltre has really found a home with the Rangers after moving on to Seattle and Boston. He joined Texas in 2011. Gonzalez to Altuve for the force on Berkman. No runs, a hit, 2 men left. Middle of the 5th inning, 1-0 Rangers.
Baseball everywhere you go. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. Follow the Astros with live audio, stats, highlights, and much more. Text @BAT to 31826 or visit Astros.com for more info.
And Jeff, pleased to announce that Dave Raymond has a job with those folks. I believe he's doing some kind of studio show every night, part of that @BAT application or something of that nature. But anyway, Dave's with MLB I think tonight's his debut.
That's great news.
That is great news. He was he was a great guy. Did a great job on the radio. He deserves it.
Yep. Chris Carter taking ball 1. He struck out in the second inning.
I miss Franklin.
Yeah.
He's good people.
Well, you know, you've been around this game for a while now, Jeff. When was your first year as a professional?
1999.
Okay, so all the people you've met, all your various stops, it's really a bond, isn't it? You could see somebody not having seen that person for 10 years, and it's that bond is still there, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Fortunately, I spent 5 years here in Houston, got pretty close like Alan. You know, doing the radio side, had a chance to meet him in the early 2000s, and obviously we still somewhat get along, which is good news.
Yeah.
But,
well, I abused him. He was too nice on the interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently I gave you too hard of a ribbing earlier in spring. And
well, apparently
paid the price.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the beauty of baseball. You're never out of contact with these guys.
Fly ball left center field. Murphy backing at the wall.
Darn it.
Carter retired. 1 out, and still the Astros are looking for their first base runner of the game.
Hoping that was going to be the opening right there. Lead it off with a blast to tie it up and keep moving, but just not enough.
Well, contact is an improvement, isn't it? The way this guy's throwing.
There's that nice short stroke that we were talking about. He's quiet for a long time, and all of a sudden hands explode, and just got under it a bit.
That's 13 straight retired by Darvish to start this game. Rick Ankiel struck out in the second inning. Bounces this one wide of first base, strike 1. He came to this ballpark early in the 01 season as a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals and had all kinds of problems in the first inning. Now, as he has reinvented himself as an outfielder, coming back in a totally different way.
I just hope he gets enough credit for bouncing back from something like that, because anybody that goes through those kinds of struggles with the so-called thing, you know, at the major league level, I mean, the media, the attention you get when things are going good, you get just as much or more when things are going bad. And that a boy?
Oh, it's caught.
Good grief.
Moreland.
Astros, Dynamos, Rockets, and more. We have all your sports news covered. Check out Sportsnet Central 7 days a week at 6:10 and midnight on Comcast Sportsnet, your home of your home teams.
2 outs, and it's Justin Maxwell. He struck out looking in the second inning. Justin said Sunday night after the game he couldn't get out of here until midnight because his little kid made him throw batting practice in the cage inside.
That's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing.
Strike 1. His mom and dad were here. His dad, the former Navy dentist to 2 presidents of the United States.
I asked Justin about that. I said, what did your friends think of that story? He said, I never told anybody.
No balls, 2 strikes.
Probably feels like he's getting his teeth pulled out right now facing you, Darvish.
For sure.
Imagine trying to keep that secret from your friends that you're hanging out at the White House.
Yeah, you probably attract way too many friends if you let that secret out.
Maxwell hit a homer last year off you, Darvish. That's strike 3. That's 10 strikeouts in 5 innings and a 1-0 lead for the Rangers. to National League Baseball, where as we enter the 6th inning, Lucas Harrell would be due up third in the bottom half. So it's a totally different way of managing as Murphy leads it off in a 1-0 game, and there's strike one. The Bo Porter does not have to be concerned about pinch hitting for Lucas Harrell, and it's quite different for the manager in making that decision of how long to leave a pitcher in the game. But he has shown a lot of battle in him tonight, Jeff Plum.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's had his scrape and claw, but hasn't let anything affect him. He's done a good job of getting that sinker in there, getting ground balls, getting outs when he needs them.
Altuve takes care of Murphy's grounder, and we see the work of Lucas Harrell tonight.
Lucas Harrell just continues to pound the strike zone. He has spotted it well throughout the evening. He's had his moments, but he also hasn't had a lot of good fortune on his side with a couple of ground balls creating hits. That was a big strikeout. Finding the inside corner now, Lucas Harrell has acquitted himself very well.
The liner, and Cruz gets it in for a single to left field. Cruz now 1 for 3 in this game. He hit the deep drive caught by Maxwell in the 4th inning. So the 3rd time through the order now it's Brzezinski coming up. Dave Tremblay, former manager of the Baltimore Orioles, the Astros third base coach, was saying before the game around the batting cage, that 3rd time around the order in the American League is really the telling part of a game usually.
Yeah, it is. I mean, not only is the pitcher getting a little bit fatigued, especially this early in season, leaving balls up, just like you saw that one do Nelson Cruz, that hanging slider that he smashed in the left. But you've got a little bit of a book in your head. You've seen him, a couple pitches from him. You know what he's going to go to in 2-strike counts maybe, but you're picking up that release point a little bit better than you did that first day.
Do you think that book in the head is helping Astros hitters at this moment?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's the thing. It can go either way.
Yeah, it could work to your advantage if you've got the confidence, but it could also strike fear in your heart when you're up there too.
Brzezinski was hit by a pitch earlier.
Sorry, Brownie, I was wondering what Ron Washington must be thinking right about now. His pitcher hasn't allowed a base runner, obviously not a hit on the night. And if he continues in that direction, Ron Washington is going to face an awfully tough decision.
Runner goes on this ground ball. Harrell, Gonzalez out of the way. Double play. Very quick.
That is big league.
For the 2nd time tonight, he starts a 1-6-3 double play. Impeccable glove work. Lucas Harrell is ready for some offensive support. It's 1-0 after 5.5 Rangers.
And what a time to do it. The runner was on the move. It was a hit and run, and Harold didn't panic whatsoever and got that ball to Marwin for the double play. But you can tell how important it was to him to get out of that inning right there. Love the fist pump, and he probably did that even more so for the offense. See him coming off the field with a fist pump? This might be the inning that he's trying to tell those guys, let's go. Get the offense going. I've got out of this thing 1-0. This is our opportunity.
Doug Brocail with an arm around him. As Jason Castro, the DH, leads off. He grounded out earlier.
Back to that double play. Barrel into the bat, flying out toward the mound as well. So there was a lot going on. And Lucas Harrell, like you say, no panic at all. Got rid of the ball like an infielder trying to set up a double play very quickly.
Doug's probably trying to break the news to him that maybe the pitch count's getting a little high. They may have to make the adjustment and bring somebody in and whatnot, or they could be scouting for next inning, telling them what's working and keep it going.
Well, the Astros have had the bullpen busy with the lefty Xavier Cedeno and right-hander Reiner Cruz. They are both getting ready. Carlos Corcoran on deck. Now it's a 2-ball, 1-strike count to Jason Castro. He looked sensational, Ash, this spring.
What a spring. In all facets of the game. In fact, in game 1 a couple of nights ago, nice quick release to throw out a runner after a good jump at first base. But with the bat was where I thought he shined maybe as well as anybody on the club this spring.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
And that power game was a big part of what he did.
Yeah, it's got to be nice for him to know going into the season that he is at 100%. Batting through that ACL a couple years ago and then going through a full season. Not quite sure if it's 100% or not, but taking that full off season and get that thing healthy, work on building up the strength in it, and going into the season is a huge bonus for him. And it paid off in spring training. Hope to see a little lightning here.
Swing and a miss and another strikeout. And a throw on strikeout number 11.
It's clear-cutting season, and the Dynamo's Davis and Bruin will be sharpening their axes when they visit the Portland Timbers. It's rather cute. Houston at Portland Saturday, April 6th at 9:30 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet, your home for your home teams.
Darvish has tied his career high for strikeouts in a major league game with 11. And that's her 5 1/3 innings. Now Carlos Corcoran, who grounded back to Darvish, comes up next. Astros trying to get some glimmer of hope going here. It's only the 6th inning, but they just haven't had anything going.
And you know, it's one thing to have a young ball club like we do and have some of the growing pains that we've talked about, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about throughout the season, where guys are going to be swinging at some bad pitches, making some bad choices, you know, on the field and things like that. But Yu Darvish is dealing. Yeah, this guy is. I mean, he would give a great team fits right now with some of the stuff he's throwing up there right now.
There are times as a starting pitcher you just simply have to learn to hang with him. You have a great night, and I think Lucas Harrell falls in that category tonight. He has pitched very, very well, but he's been outdone by Yu Darvish to this point.
I like that move right there by Corcoran, stepping out, calling timeout in the middle of his set position, maybe throw him off a little bit, get that rhythm a little out of whack.
1 ball, 1 strike. Carlos's family surprised him coming in from Puerto Rico for the Friday night exhibition game here with the Cubs. There's a shot, and it's caught by Moreland. Well, Moreland's been there to spear a couple of balls hit by Astros in this game, and now the string goes to 17 straight retired by Darvish at the outset of this game, with Marwin Gonzalez facing him next.
These are not numbers I wanted to be talking about on my first broadcast, guys. I apologize. I'm a little. Let's go, boys.
You want a little more hitting than this.
Yeah.
Well, Clayton Kershaw has already gone the distance. We talked about that earlier on for the Dodgers, hitting a home run in the process. And you wonder, does Yu Darvish potentially have that in the works tonight?
Yes. Gonzalez struck out in the 3rd. Like the big curveball that time for ball 1.
I think it's really hard days for managers right now. If you do let a pitcher go that deep early on, you're going to get some criticism. Some people are going to wonder why you did it.
He'd have a pretty good excuse today.
Yeah.
Well, Steven Strasburg pitched scoreless ball. He came out after, what, 7 innings?
Kind of a different Strasburg game with few strikeouts.
He's a finesse pitcher now.
Well, he's pitching to contact.
There were some real pitching gems first couple of days.
Jeff Smarja with the Cubs pitched well.
Yes, he had another one. You're right. King Felix. Very well. And, that Detroit bullpen was a big question mark without a real established closer. And Verlander got the win, leaving after 5. That bullpen did quite fine.
And the questions about the Angels bullpen, too, going into that extra innings. They threw 7 shutout.
Well, I just can't believe the Tigers would lay out that kind of money for a five and fly guy like Verlander.
It's a pretty good paid vacation.
Yeah.
Darvish, a 2-time Pacific League MVP in Japan. Bouncer Moreland. It's 18 straight set down by Darvish with 11 strikeouts through the first 6 and a 1-0 lead.
For the Houston Astros. Astros Big and Bright Friday nights are the perfect combination of baseball and family fun. Each Friday night game is followed by a spectacular fireworks show presented by Marathon Oil. This Friday, our first 10,000 fans will get a special T-shirt that's presented by Waste Management. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com to get your tickets today.
And you'll see the orange jerseys on Friday nights. Xavier Cedeno is the first reliever to work in this game, and the left-hander who made an opening day roster for the first time in his career Sunday night, coming off a year in which he was 0-1 with a 3.77 ERA. Had a good spring. He really makes the most of different deliveries, I think. Jeff, he's fun to watch. 31 innings, 14 walks, 36 strikeouts for Xavier Cedeno. He said a couple of years ago, just on his own, he started dropping down with his delivery. And we'll see it here against Moreland, who's 0 for 2. Makes it a little tougher angle. Now, both of you guys were switch hitters. You never had to worry about anything like this lefty on lefty thing.
These guys are the reason you do switch hit. It looks like no fun.
I had plenty else to worry about, Bronny.
1 ball and 1 strike.
Yeah, working that 3/4, swinging that cross angle right there. When you say kind of throwing across his body, it seems like his lead foot's pointing towards the Astros dugout, bringing that arm across, trying to create a little more deception, a little bit tougher to pick up that ball sometimes. And when you're facing a guy left on left, it feels like he's throwing out of your back pocket.
Got to be tough to hang in.
Yeah, what I used to feel like, and it depended on the left-hander himself, but some guys would make it feel like it was coming from somewhere between that hole between first and second base. And it just, it left me feeling like there was really no chance. I've had this theory, long-held theory. Why, and I'll start it by saying, why is it the right-hand hitters are not affected in Major League Baseball by right-hand pitching like left-hand hitters are by left-hand pitching? And my theory is based on the way the bases are set up.
Oh. Strike out for out number one.
I'll get to that and finish it in just a moment because it's a great story.
It sounds like it, yeah. Yeah.
And a look at that last at bat through our pitch by pitch presented by Steel Dealers. And you can see the left-hander having his way with the left-hand hitter. That was a pretty good looking pitch. Then the sweeping slider and another one, and it's time to go sit down.
He moves that slider around, Ash.
Yeah.
Both corners.
Well, here's back to my theory, not story.
All right.
But because first base is to the right side, right-hand hitters, in facing the right-hand pitcher, tend to be swinging and running toward the plate, into the pitch. Left-hand hitters are doing the very opposite thing. They're running away from the plate. And I think there's a tendency, because of that setup, to pull off pitches a lot more than right-hand hitters do. Now, that's my theory. I'll stick to it no matter what you say.
I'm glad you are.
It sounds like
it does make a little bit of a sense. 'Cause, I mean, so you don't see right-handed hitters take the front hip, for instance, which is a great point because you just saw Moreland right there. The first thing to fly out against Cedeno was that right front hip. You kind of leaked a little bit, and you lose your hands that way, whereas right-handed hitters have a tendency to stay in a little bit longer, and maybe due to the fact because they are kind of leaning towards that first base.
So if you were to imagine yourself batting left-handed against a left-hand pitcher, and third base was your direction of running, would it not keep you in there maybe a little longer on the pitch?
Well,
it could.
Yeah.
I say we play a game backwards.
We need to try it sometime.
it sounds like a real revolutionary concept. And let's take it a step further. So if you're a left-handed hitter, you run to third base. There's a guy on second. He can do whatever he wants to do.
He can go either direction?
Yeah, that could create real mayhem on the diamond. Yeah.
Wow.
That has some possibilities here.
In this case, mayhem is good.
Liner to right center, and Maxwell lays out for it. It gets by him. It's picked up by Enkiel deep. And here's a shot at a triple. Altuve with the throw. And he's safe. Gentry, who runs very well, had a double in the third inning. Now he tacks on a triple. And he's there with one out here in the seventh.
Now, one thing as an outfielder is you have to know when you can lay out and when you probably are better serving your team by not laying out. And this is just one of those plays where I think when Justin Maxwell looks at it a little bit more, he'll realize there was no legitimate chance to get to this with the glove. At the same time, if he stays on his feet, does he get there and cut it off anyway? Maybe not.
Well, and you got to know the runner. That's what we keep going back to is the scouting reports, knowing your hitter. And Gentry can fly. There's no question about it. And that ball, knowing that ball has a chance to get in the gap. I mean, I'll give you, for instance, I thought he had a chance to catch it, but the more he got near it, the more the ball was getting down towards the ground. He saw he had no chance, but he was trying to. Would have been better to knock it down, keep it in second base.
Reiner Cruz comes in. We'll be right back. I think at that point he realized what you guys were talking about. But anyway, now the Astros have a runner at third, one out, and Reiner Cruz comes in with Ian Kinsler, the batter. The infield will be hoping for a play at the plate if they have to make one and shut off this run in a 1-0 game. So that runner is extremely important right now as Reiner makes his first appearance of the year. He was a Rule 5 pick last year with those numbers. Hard thrower. And now the infielders move in, but he's certainly a guy who could get a strikeout as well in this situation. Kinsler is 1 for 3. Elvis Andrus on deck. That's strike one from Reiner Cruz. He's a high octane guy, so for a situation like this, he is certainly an appropriate choice. Try to get either no contact or not any good contact.
That is lively cheese right there at 97. And like you say, Brownie, you're either looking for the ground ball or the strikeout pop-up scenario. It looks like the latter here. Wow.
That's got some pop to it.
You know it.
This is the kind of stuff you could project as a closer.
Yes. That was 97. Reiner last year had 46 strikeouts in 55 innings. He's 26 years old, from the Dominican. It's a high drive to left field. It looks like a fair ball, and it hits off the foul pole. 2-run homer for Ian Kinsler. And the Rangers lead 3-0 on Kinsler's first long ball of 2013.
There's one thing that happens with a guy that throws very hard, and that is immediately hitters take big swings. And in this case, it pays off for Ian Kinsler.
And you know, the scouting report obviously says that Reiner Cruz has a fastball. And he got to a 1-1 count there on his heater. And knowing that he's got that kind of speed on his fastball, Ian Kinsler getting those hands back, getting ready for that fastball, would have been a good spot maybe for a slider looking back in hindsight. But at the same time, Ian Kinsler, you got to give credit to him for getting that bat ready and getting the head out and turning on 95.
Yeah, that's the thing about major league hitters, is they know what's going on and they can turn up the dial.
Elvis Andrus takes, and that's ball one.
Edging closer to the 100 mark.
Kinsler goes deep for the first time for a Ranger in the young season. Very potent offensive team, especially in their own ballpark. 1 ball, 1 strike. Kinsler hit 31 homers in 09 and 32 in 2011. Rangers hit 200 homers last year.
You know, it's interesting having a guy like Ian Kinsler at the top of the lineup with that much power. And then you see a situation like this where he does drive that ball out of the ballpark, clears the bases, and you got Elvis Andrus up there. So he turns into that leadoff guy again, maybe work the count a little bit and get back on base for the heart of this lineup.
Now 3 balls and a strike. It would appear that both of these clubs will have bullpen situations that will be emerging in the early weeks of the season. Things don't seem totally set with either club in the bullpen.
Yeah, I think bringing Eric Bedard out of the bullpen on the opening night would raise some eyebrows.
You're right. On into center field. Andrus on for the 3rd straight time. Past the diving Marwin Gonzalez. That's the 3rd hit of the inning for the Rangers.
Included in those raised eyebrows a lot of times might be those of your big left-hander Bedard himself. You wonder, okay, I'm the number 5 starter, and then opening night comes and you're getting up and you're ready to come on in the ball game.
Yeah, you would think hopefully you got a little pregame meeting saying, hey, we get into a situation where we are able to go to you for a long save type situation, we're going to go to you.
Lance Berkman is 2 for 2 with an RBI and an intentional walk. Now, we were hearing tonight that Bo Porter really hatched that plan about a week ago. Woohoo! It was a high throw over to first, and was thinking about using his number 5 starter in relief, Eric Bedard, if the opportunity arose. Wesley Wright's working now, and they had spoken before the game with Eric Bedard about that possibility. And he really executed for 3 1/3 innings. Berkman takes a look at ball one. Dave Tremblay, the Astros third base coach, said when he was managing Baltimore, he would go to each of his relievers before every game and would designate things like, "You are my long man," just so they'll know when that bullpen phone rings, it's for them. That guy is the long man that night.
And I think that's a good thing for ball players. We're so routine oriented. It's nice to know what your role is. I can't imagine what it's like to be in the bullpen, but I would imagine that knowing that when your number is going to be called is going to be a good thing. So you can get in your routine, get mentally prepared, start moving around a little bit, stretch, start playing catch a little bit. So if the situation does arise where they need you, they can go get you.
Pitch out there, and it's 2-1. Dave Tremblay said he used to ask his relief pitchers, "What's the worst thing for you in the bullpen?" And just about everyone would say, "When the phone rings and we don't know who it's for."
Yeah, that's not a good feeling. It's like having the creditors call you or telemarketers. You're like, "Oh man," you know.
You need to just not answer.
That's exactly it.
Towering pop. Marlon Gonzalez comes in, calls off Fred Wallace.
Well, the other thing that bullpen pitchers don't like is getting that call that says get up and get it hot, and then not coming in the ballgame.
That is so true. People don't realize, I mean, if we had a bullpen cam all day long, you'd be entertained, one, because those guys are pretty funny, but at the same time, you'd see how many times they do get hot. Guys will get hot 2-3 times a game and then won't even come in a game. So they're almost throwing every single day sometimes.
When you have those games where you get loose a couple of times and you heat it all the way up, you almost have to take the next day off. It's like you came in the ballgame.
Right. Yeah, Dave was saying if he had a closer and he'd gotten him up twice, that third time, he was either coming in the game or, you know, he wasn't going to use him the next day at all. So they do keep tabs on that, how many pitches they throw. He said Dennis Martinez, the bullpen coach, knows how many pitches it takes each guy to be ready to come in. And that's important early in the season when they haven't really seen these guys in a game that counts. Beltre's 0 for 3. Bouncer Wallace caught in between hops, but handled it to end the top of the 7th inning. The Kinsler 2-run homer gives the Rangers a 3-0 lead in the middle of the 7th.
Coca-Cola stage. Most big league ballparks are very quiet in the offseason. Not the case here at Minute Maid Park. You might have noticed all the changes around as the ballpark's trying to match the color scheme, including the big logo ahead above me. Actually, it's lit up this season. That's one of the changes. Also, all championship banners have been changed to match the color scheme as well. Many other details. The Astros fans I've talked to so far love it. And I'll tell you, the Rangers fans standing next to me right now are loving the fact that they could be watching history right now.
Well, Astros have been no-hit, as you know, a few times. Most recently last year, perfect game by Matt Cain on the road. There's never been a no-hitter at Minute Maid Park. Bottom of the 7th inning, Yu Darvish has been perfect through 6. Retiring all 18 men he's faced. Here's Jose Altuve, who has struck out both times. 11 strikeouts for Darvish. That's in the air, and Kinsler's out for it in shallow right field. One pitch, one out here for Darvish.
And that one pitch, that smallish cutter. And I think that gives an idea that Yu Darvish is keenly aware of what's going on, that he's worked into the 7th inning, hasn't yielded a base runner, and I think he probably has that on his mind.
Red Wallace has struck out both times tonight. 83 pitches for Yu Darvish so far through 6 1/3.
Yeah, he's just keeping everybody off balance. Now we're facing that third go around, and you see Altuve take a swing like that, who's an all-star. Got to be a little concerned.
Strike one to Wallace. Rangers had the 7th best ERA in the American League last year, 3.99. Darvish had 29 starts. He did not have a complete game in his first major league season last year. So he might be better than Hideo Nomo when all is said and done in his career. Nomo had a nice major league career coming from Japan. No balls, 2 strikes.
Nomo had a couple of no-nos.
Sure did. He pitched one at Colorado, of all places.
Yeah. That seems a bit improbable.
And the mound was muddy. It had rained, and he pitched from the stretch quite a bit that night.
We've got another stretch going on here.
Yes, we do. Nolan Ryan said right after they had signed Yu Darvish that he has really small hands. For a guy 6'5", unusually small hands.
You know what that means?
What?
Small gloves.
Ah.
Yeah, which is weird. I remember playing here with Kirk Sarloos, and he had ridiculously small
smallest
hands.
I had run into.
He did.
But he could create some kind of sink on that fastball, which was amazing.
Well, he had a great changeup. He just didn't back it up with great heat.
Wallace fouls it. Pretty good cut with 2 strikes that time by Brett.
But even at 6'5", your small hands are going to be reasonably
true.
Decent.
Well, he has some kind of special stuff.
I was going to say, it's obviously not affecting anything he's doing to that baseball.
Not a bit. Last year, right-handed hitters hit .207 against him.
I wonder if in pure attractiveness those hands compare with those of George Costanza. Pretty nice.
We talked earlier, Ash, about how the situation with bases on balls got much better for Yu Darvish at the end of the season last year, but the total numbers were 191 innings, 89 walks.
Yeah, it was a whole pile of walks, no doubt about it, and it was ugly in the first half, again right around the 5 mark per 9 innings, but he still found a way to win.
Off the plate, 2-2.
And you get the sense we're not seeing anything different in terms of his overall stuff here this evening than what he threw last year. But when he throws it for strikes and he mixes it in counts, as we've been seeing as well, this guy can be absolute dynamite. And I haven't seen the effect of hitters saying, well, you know what, we finally caught up with his slider. We now have it figured out.
Wallace swings and misses at a breaking pitch. Krasinski throws to Moreland. It's strikeout number 12. Krasinski caught Philip Humber's perfect game last year at Seattle, April 21st. He caught Mark Burley's no-hitter against Texas in April of 2007 in Chicago. He could be joining the elite Alan Ashby company. He's caught 9. He's one of 9 catchers to catch at least 2 no-hitters, at least one of which was a perfect game. Only 9 have done that. Ash caught the Ken Forsch no-hitter.
1979. That was, I believe, the second or third game of the season, maybe third. That was quite a series against the Atlanta Braves. There was that no-hitter. J.R. Richard, I think, threw about a 2-hitter. I think when the series was all said and done, the Braves left town after 3 games with 4 hits.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That was April 7th. That was the earliest no-hitter. April 7th, 1979. Bob Feller pitched one on opening day, but it was a later date than that. Now Pena backs away. He's grounded out and he struck out. He had a 3-1 count when he grounded out in the first inning. There hasn't been a whole lot of hitters count since. 1-1.
I tell you, it was quite a thrill for me to catch a couple of other no-hitters as well. The Nolan Ryan no-hitter was my second, and that one gave Nolan 5 on his career. He became the all-time leader in that category and surpassed the guy that I had seen a couple of no-hitters as a kid at Dodger Stadium. That was Sandy Koufax. So that was incredibly special for me.
Broken bat. It goes to Moreland. Crossing to Yu Darvish, and that's 7 perfect innings for Yu Darvish and the Rangers fans. Chanting "you" as the Rangers lead it 3-0 after 7. Season's opening series tomorrow afternoon. It all starts with Astros pregame live tomorrow at 12:30 on Comcast Sportsnet. Your home for your home teams. And the Chevron pitching matchup will be coming your way next. Tomorrow's pitching matchup brought to you by Chevron. Care for your car. Alexi Ogando, who's been a starter 2 years ago in the bullpen last year, now back to starting against Philip Umber, making his Astros debut.
Couple of tough right-handers. Of course, the Astros hope that Philip Umber can be tough not only tomorrow but throughout the season. This is, as the 3 guy in the rotation, a very important spot for Philip Umber.
Now it's Wesley Wright in the game for the Astros. He's pitcher number 4, facing David Murphy, who's 0 for 3. Murphy gets a first pitch slider for strike 1.
Wesley Wright, last year 2-2, a nice ERA at 3.27 in 77 games. That's nice when you can get that left-hander that can bring it that many times.
It's 1-1. Wesley's 28 years old, 77 appearances last year. Xavier Cedeno went 1/3 of an inning. He allowed 1 hit, 1 run with no walks and a strikeout. Lucas Harrell 6 innings, giving up 6 hits and 1 run. He walked 2, fanned 4, and hit a batter. And Reiner Cruz 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 1 run, no walks or strikeouts. 2 balls and a strike. Wesley had a high ERA in spring training. but he's been a staple on this club going back to the 08 season. In for a strike. That makes it 2-2.
Yeah, it kind of gives him that benefit of the doubt with
Yes.
those spring training numbers.
Sure does.
They might be a little inflated, but over the last couple of years, Wes has done a good job of being that durable left-hander out of the bullpen for the Astros.
3 balls and 2 strikes. And with his standing on the club as the guy who's been around the longest. Now you see Josh Fields warming up. And he's a Rule 5 pick this year, the way Wesley was in the 08 season. So Wes can relate to those younger citizens out there, Blummer, who are showing up wondering when they're going to make their major league debuts, like Josh Fields, and tell them what he went through maybe back in the day.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive when you're going to be 28 years old and be one of the elder statesmen of the bullpen. But yeah, it's a feeling we all share, and it's something he can relay on to the young Josh Fields.
Leadoff walk for David Murphy.
A couple of us here in the booth don't remember 28.
No, you're right.
Vaguely.
Now Nelson Cruz. Cruz is 1 for 3. Hit a deep drive that was caught in the 4th inning by Maxwell. So as the lefty who came in and walked the lefty hitter, now Wright would love to make up for that by getting Cruz. Przinsky, another lefty hitter's on deck. A looping line drive into left center field will roll for a while. And that'll go all the way to the bullpen wall. Murphy being waved around to score run number 4 for the Rangers. Here's the relay throw cut off, and it's an RBI double for Cruz.
Yeah, any other ballpark that might be just a lousy single, but in this ballpark with the shift on with Nelson Cruz, Chris Carter had to cheat a little more towards that left field line to cut down a ball hit down the line, therefore opening up a gap in that left center field with a line drive over the shortstop's head.
It's that big swing, and he's always done that. He's a productive guy with the bat. It's not the double here that's the big mistake of the inning. It's coming in and walking the left-hander to start it.
Murphy scores ahead of that throw, and now it's Przinsky batting. He's 0 for 2 and was hit by a pitch. The Astros will have Carter, Ankiel, and Maxwell due up in the bottom of the 8th. Yu Darvish is perfect through 7 and now has a 4-0 lead. 10 hits for the Rangers. Przinsky looks at ball 1. Again, his career in the Twins organization. So he's been an American League guy all the way. He flicks this one toward the line. Carter coming over into foul ground, but it's out of play.
A lot of people have talked in a negative way about the body language of A.J. Przinsky. You were a teammate, Jeff. Did you guys see that? Did it bother you?
No, it never really bothered me. I know that his antics on the field are a little bit different, but you could say that about some guys too. He's like Darren Erstad, outside the white lines, phenomenal guy, affable, could talk to him, gets in between the white lines, and he's an animal.
Yeah.
In the same token, AJ gets in between the white lines. He's playing baseball. He's going to play it his way. So you got to give him credit for being consistent, number 1. But at the same time, he's going to do things that are going to irk you. And you know what? He knows it. He doesn't mind it.
Yeah.
No, he's going to run in front of you, a pitcher on the mound. He's going to nudge that elbow out there and do some of the those sneaky little things to get on base. But it's part of his game.
Pena will take it. So that's gamesmanship on his part.
It's AJ's gamesmanship. Yeah, I mean, most guys wouldn't follow the same rules that he does, but it's what he does. He's made a great career out of it, and I like the guy. He was great in the clubhouse, and he's done a great job in proving his worth behind the plate.
Does a nice job here in making an out to move the runner up.
That brings the infield in for Moreland. Moreland's 0 for 3. We can see why his teammates would like that if he would risk upsetting the other team.
I think the guy I played with that best exemplified being hated by the opposition players and loved by his own was Dennis Eckersley as a youngster. He had very demonstrative styles on the hill, and and he was funny. I mean, he made his own teammates laugh, but opposition player just couldn't stand a thing he did.
Yeah, it's when you're sitting on the same side as the guy, you know he's going to do something, and he goes ahead and does it. You do get a little bit of a chuckle out of it.
That's laced. Carter back with a catch. Here's the tag at third. Cruz will come home, and it's 5-0 with Moreland's first RBI of 2013.
That play actually was one I'm anxious to see more of for Chris Carter in left field. It was not an easy routine play. Line drive that is at the outfielder can freeze a lot of guys, and he got back and made the play routinely. So I think one thing the Astros have to answer this year is, can Carter play left field effectively?
Looked pretty good on that one.
Yeah.
Nice, easy karaoke move to get back there and made it look like he's been out there for years.
Wesley Wright's out of the game, and Josh Fields will be in for his major league debut right after this.
Fans looking for the perfect way to combine business and baseball, or a unique space to hold your next event? With state-of-the-art meeting spaces, Minute Maid Park can surpass all of your needs. Call 713-259-8800 for more information. Don't forget to ask about softball games and batting practice.
Josh Fields comes in, making his major league debut at age 27 from Hull, Georgia. He went to the University of Georgia, where he had 41 saves. He was the first overall pick in the 2012 Rule 5 draft, 20th overall pick in 08, a first rounder by Seattle. Traded to Boston along with Eric Bedard in a deal in 11. And he bounces that one up for ball one on his first major league pitch to Craig Gentry. Gentry has a double and a triple and 2 runs scored tonight. This is a good time for a major league debut, if you will. It's a 5-0 game. 2 outs in the 8th inning. Pretty good chance to bring him in for just a brief time, get him some success.
And there's nobody on base, so you don't have to worry about any of that kind of situation. Just go out there and attack the hitter.
That's right.
You look at his spring numbers, Josh Fields, and really did a nice job overall, except for the walk column. 7 walks in 11+ innings. Got to find a way to be more consistently in the strike zone.
And I remember doing the game with Dash, and Josh came in, and he's got such good stuff. He's got an electric fastball, great slider, but his motion is violent.
Yeah.
You know, he really rushes that thing up there with a violent motion with his arm. So sometimes those pitchers have a tendency to really control and be consistent with that arm and that release point.
3-1 now. Last year, Fields was at AA Portland most of the season. Pitched 10 games at AAA Pawtucket. Had an ERA of 0 in those 10 games. So he attracted a lot of attention in that Rule 5 draft and was the first player taken after having earlier control problems in his career in 2011 and higher ERAs. He seemed to have solved a lot of those difficulties last year. At Portland, he walked 16 in 44 innings. Those are good numbers. He struck out 59.
As a hitter, if you can hit some mammoth home runs, you'll draw some attention. As a pitcher, if you have that big arm. And pretty good arm here.
He gets the punch out at 94 miles per hour to end the top of the 8th inning. It's 2 runs on 1 hit for the Rangers, and Mr. Perfection through 7. Yu Darvish now has a 5-0 lead.
Lead. Yu Darvish dealing with a perfecto here as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Don't miss your chance to see the Astros take on some of the best teams in the American League, including the Red Sox, Yankees, Rangers, and a whole lot more. Get your tickets now by calling 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com.
Now squarely in the spotlight is Yu Darvish, moving to the bottom of the 8th inning with a 5-0 lead. He's been perfect through 7. He has struck out 12. He's thrown 93 pitches. And there's a strike to Chris Carter, who's 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a fly ball to left.
Well, if he's going to paint like this on the edges, makes it all the more difficult.
2 relievers warming up for the Rangers. That one's upstairs for ball 1.
And he's showing no sign of letting up. I mean, he's still throwing the ball hard, still working his breaking pitches in there, but nothing's really fluttering up there. Everything's still got that sharpness to it.
The number of swings and misses on the slider and the over-the-top curveball has been amazing.
Off the plate, lefty Michael Kirkman is warming up. So is right-hander Tanner Shepherds for the Rangers.
A lot of times when a guy's dealing with a no-no or perfecto late in the ball game, that pitch will be called a strike.
Yeah, Paul Newert back there's been pretty consistent.
So at 2-1, he comes with a filthy slider down and away.
And it's in the strike zone.
Yep.
It's not like it's bailing out of the strike zone. That he was swung at a what would have been a called strike. That's what makes that so impressive. I mean, it's wow.
Now 3-2.
He humped up in 96 on that heater.
It's his first 3-ball count since the 4th inning.
And early on in the game, these 3-2 counts predicated sliders. Both kinds, the big one and the sharp down and away one. Good chance he goes back to it.
Yep. Astros fans into it now. And it's hit foul.
Well, he came slider. He just hung it a bit. And that was one that Chris Carter's probably kicking himself for not keeping fair somewhere.
Yeah, but when you've got a whole game, 8 innings, and you haven't seen one hang up in the zone and you haven't felt the ball in your barrel for a while, you get a little jumpy, and he got excited and hammered it, but it was foul.
I think Darvish was probably trying to bring the surprise factor there. Any breaking ball, a good breaking ball.
Going back to it. Try and throw a better one here.
Popped up behind the play. Pierzynski back. And it's out of play for him.
I'll tell you who's certainly as uptight, nervous, really into it as anybody on the field, and that's the catcher, A.J. Pierzynski. The catcher on no-hit opportunities late, you just get so wrapped into it.
Do you feel pressure to call the right pitch?
Absolutely. Do not want to be the guy that messes it up. If you're playing at third base, you want to make sure you make every play.
Yeah, the perfect game is a unique situation for everybody on the field, knowing that get it.
High to left field, and this
That's
is
going to be it.
headed for the line, but just foul.
Oh, boy.
The way Murphy was playing, he had a long way to come on that. That one could have flared in.
Big time, because that area of Minute Maid turns into the Bermuda Triangle for baseballs. So it's such a far run for the shortstop and the left fielder to get there.
Apparently the Rangers don't feel that Chris Carter is a yank it down the line kind of guy, because like you say, with left fielder playing so far off the line, Murphy in left just had to come forever.
It's a really good call.
Saw Carter a couple of days ago over the weekend in one of those exhibition games. Hit one double to left center, one double to right center. Murphy's over shading toward left center. He's right in front of the 362 sign. Struck him out for number 13.
Yeah, you got away with a couple of the hangers that Chris Carter missed. I know he's going to look back and regret that one, but he could not hit that one. That one was dirty.
Sometimes all you have to do is start a breaking ball in the strike zone, and then as it sweeps away, and that's the case with this slider, as a hitter with two strikes on you, you have to try to protect. And once you see that it's already starting to break out of the zone, you've committed too far.
Rick Ankiel struck out and popped up at first. All one in the dirt.
Well, Rick's already shown his flair for the dramatic, getting that three-run home run last night. Why not break up a no-no right here? Last AB, I think it was, he hit that bullet to Mitch Moreland. He reached out and snagged it.
King Felix Hernandez of Seattle, the last to pitch a perfect game last year.
Oh, we got him rattled. Here we go.
Former Astro pitcher Mike Maddox, pitching coach for the Rangers. Brother Greg Maddox. 1-1. Greg Maddox also spent some time around this Ranger club in spring training this year.
There have got to be some very good times to be considered the brother of Greg Maddox, but I wonder at what point does it wear thin when every time you get your name announced it's the brother of Greg Maddox.
1-2.
Tried to shorten a swing, did Rick Ankiel right there, but it still wasn't good enough.
Almost looked like he guessed wrong and tried to fight through that swing to make contact, but he's got one more pitch left.
105 pitches. What is Ron Washington thinking right about now?
Hope he's efficient. Struck him out. 14.
Crowd is feeling this one.
Last year, Terry Collins was just so worried when Johan Santana had that no-hitter going, and the Mets had never pitched one. And he was nervous that way too, Ash. Santana got the no-hitter, but hasn't done much since then. He got hurt.
Well, if I'm a manager, I've got to give that pitcher the opportunity for a no-hitter or a perfect game, as the case is right here. And what I might consider doing is telling you, Darvish, if he does go the distance here, look, we're going to skip you next time around and then give you at least a couple of extra days.
Justin Maxwell rolls one out to Kinsler, and that is 8 perfect innings for you, Darvish, and a 5-0 lead. By Progressive. Visit progressive.com today. And by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. Well, the Rangers fans are very excited right now. Their starting pitcher, Yu Darvish, is perfect through 8. He has struck out 14. Now the Rangers come up in the 9th inning. And the Astros go to pitcher number 6 of the night. Jose Veras, their new closer, signed as a free agent over the winter. He's 32 years old from Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. Last year pitched for Milwaukee, made 72 appearances. He has 5 career saves. He's been a setup man in his career, but this year he will take on that closer role. And coming in for an appearance tonight to get into the swing of things, he might be closing tomorrow afternoon, Ash.
Got a chance. You'd love to see that be the case if you're an Astros fan, no question about it. You got to get those guys in for early appearances, get the monkey off everybody's back.
Now Kinsler will lead it off in the 9th inning. He has a couple of hits, including a 2-run homer in the 7th. Josh Fields retired the only man he faced in his major league debut. He strikes out Gentry, and that's a good way to start it. There's strike 1 for Veras. And the third no-hitter you caught, Alan Ashby, was Mike Scott's division clinching game.
1986, yep. That so improbable, and what a great day that was. San Francisco Giants in town. We had a, I believe, 10-game lead. It could have been 9 going into that one. I don't recall, but it was the clinching day, and Scotty decides to break out the no-no, and he was so close to no-nos time after time at that stage of things, but just an incredible afternoon. Probably the most hittable pitch, the final one of the game. Will Clark rolled over a ground ball to the right side, but it was one of those waist-high kind of sinking things that you could just see flying about 500 feet, and it fortunately worked out for Mike and the gang, and what a great day.
Yeah, and you visited him at the mound and had an interesting conversation with him late in that game. What did you tell him?
Man, you're going to have to tell me that story.
He said you came out and you said, look, we're going to clinch this game anyway. We're going to clinch the division. So just don't throw a cookie here. You know, he had the no-hitter going. So, in other words,
that's Scotty's,
you can get this no-hitter.
That's Scotty's version of the
That's his version.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
We're going to have to roll the tape on that one. Yogi Berra had a great line that day. Yogi, one of the coaches on the staff.
What did he say?
Well, we headed back to the clubhouse, and you may recall those were the conehead days when Charlie Kerfeld and the boys were wearing the coneheads, and they were back in the clubhouse. And I happened to walk in with Yogi, and celebration was going on, as you might guess, on clinching day and a no-hitter. And Yogi saw the 3 coneheads right in the middle of the clubhouse. And as Yogi was wont to do, he said, "Yeah, you 3 make quite a pair." And I had my arm draped around his shoulders, and I thought, you know, I was there for one of Yogi's isms, and it was just beautiful.
He can't deny that one. Then
you 3 make quite a pair.
He had some beauties, didn't he?
He did.
Leadoff walk for Kinsler.
The old restaurant one where nobody ever goes there anymore because it's always too crowded.
Joe Nathan is getting loose for the Rangers. Jose Veras with Elvis Andrus coming up next. Andrus is 2 for 3 with a walk. This Astros bullpen pecking order is going to be interesting to watch as it unfolds here in the first few weeks of the season.
You know, with everything else on this, I don't want to use that word rebuilding because it is not in the dictionary, but this ball club that is trying to develop itself as a winner toward the future, I think it's the bullpen that causes me the most concern.
Not a lot of experience. Smacked up the right field line into the corner past a diving Pena. Kinsler around third. He's being sent home by Gary Pettis. Altuve with a relay, and he is in there. Andrus winds up at third. It's 6-0.
Well, it's one of those ball games where the outcome doesn't seem to be the question mark. It's all coming down now to Yu Darvish, and can he complete his bid for the perfect game? Good hitting right there, slashing it the other way.
Thank gets it in, and then the relay not quite in time from Altuve as Kinsler scores.
I'm not sure when Rick Ankiel has the ball in his hand that utilizing the cutoff man is the best ploy.
Yeah. Now the infield moves in as Berkman bats. There's a strike to Lance. So the Rangers have been piling up extra base hits. That's 3 triples in this game for them to go with the Kinsler homer. They've had 2 doubles as well. Their club record is 2 triples in a game. And Andrus has tied that. Fly ball to center, not deep. Let's see if Ankiel can get there. It is in for a hit. And it's 7-0.
Well, as good as Justin Maxwell has been going back into his sides, took him a little while to get going coming in on this ball hit off the end of the bat.
Berkman winds up with a pop fly RBI single, his 3rd hit of the night.
Yeah, probably playing a little bit deeper on the Puma, but taking a big swing from a cleanup hitter like that.
Yeah, it's that big swing where you hit it off the end of the bat or get jammed that will really fool outfielders.
Well, Berkman will take a 14-game hitting streak at Minute Maid Park into his next game here. 7-0 Texas, 11 hits. And it's Beltre. He's not been a part of the hitting attack. He's 0 for 4.
I'm only speculating, but I'm assuming that these extended innings on offense for the Texas Rangers are beneficial to Yu Darvish coming back out next inning.
I would think so.
A little extra time to sit around, rest, recoup.
Yeah, I think where it's difficult is on the nerves because, you know, kind of like opening day, you want to get there and get it done and kind of get it behind you and get that first hit or whatever the case may be. I imagine as a pitcher you sit there and you're thinking, come on, let me get out there. I want to get at my business right now.
Continue that rhythm he's got going.
He'll be facing 7, 8, 9. Castro, Corporana, and Gonzalez in the bottom of the 9th. Foul back. It's no balls, 2 strikes. Rangers certainly have had the upper hand in the battle for Texas for the last few years. They're 14-4 against the Astros since the start of 2010. And they've won 25 of the last 35 from the Astros. Beltre is down on strikes. 1 out. Strikeout number 7 for Astros pitchers tonight. David Murphy is next.
Power sinker down and in, swung right over the top.
Pretty hard sinker.
Rangers have won the last 8 series from the Astros. Since the last time they lost one was here at Minute Maid Park in June of 2008. Murphy 0 for 3 with a walk, scored a run. Fouls that one for strike 1. Now you mentioned the bullpen, Ash, and there are similar thoughts about the Rangers bullpen, that they have a different makeup there, so it'll be interesting to check and see where both of these teams are with their relief corps the next time they meet. You know, there are 15 of the 30 closers are new with their teams this year in the majors. That's a pretty big turnover.
I think concerns about bullpen also have a lot to do with what the starting staff is like. And the Astros starting staff, though not proven, at least right now as I look at them, has a chance to be pretty good. And I really liked what Lucas Harrell did tonight, but Norris awfully good in the opener. And so the Astros really need those guys to step up. If they create a lot of innings for a bullpen that's untested, it's likely to be a tough chore.
Murphy takes a look at it.
So far, the first 2 guys have done a great job. Lucas Harrell battled and did a great job. Bud Norris on opening night did a fantastic job, shutting down a tough lineup. I mean, these guys are doing a great job. But you do worry about the starters overextending that bullpen. especially in the American League West.
Murphy didn't get a cut at it, but he's called for a swing. He couldn't stop. Strikeout number 2 in a row for Veras. He's about a half a swing.
Pretty good down action. You get that bat started because it looks like it started around the knees, and that's clearly going through.
Nelson Cruz has 2 hits and an RBI tonight. A run scored as well for Nelson Cruz. Strike for Jose Veras. It's been Harold, Cedeno, Cruz, Wright, Fields, and Veras tonight for Houston. Phil Umber goes tomorrow in his Astros debut against Alexi Ogando. We'll be on the air at 12:30 with Astros Live. No balls, 2 strikes.
I have a feeling there are going to be some wake-up calls employed tomorrow morning.
Oh, yes. The Astros also have scheduled an early morning workout for Thursday, an off day at 9 a.m.
See you there, Brownie.
Yeah.
Jeff's going to take a little BP.
Yeah, I'm going to bring my 7-iron and a bucket of balls.
Struck him out, and he struck out the side, but the Rangers picked up 2 runs on 2 hits and left a man. We go now to the bottom of the ninth with the score 7-0 Rangers. We're going to keep it right here because of this man, Yu Darvish, and his perfect game bid. 3 outs away from getting it. It's his best major league game so far. He has struck out 14 through 8 innings.
At bat last inning, but luckily he missed him. But he's been able to bounce back and make the pitches when he's had to. And it's not like the Astros are chasing awful pitches. A lot of these pitches are in the zone, or they're in down in the zone, breaking out of the zone that look like strikes. So, I mean, all the credit is with Yu Darvish right now, and a lot of the pressure's on the defense right now to keep this thing perfect.
Yeah, the 2 hangers you mentioned, to Chris Carter with 3-2 counts, and that's generally speaking a fastball count. So maybe leaving that hitter off balance a bit.
Kenny Rogers offering the first perfect game in Rangers history, 94, and now Yu Darvish trying to join him. Faces Jason Castro. Castro's 0 for 2, a ground out and a strikeout, and the man behind the plate calling this 9th inning. A.J. Pierzynski can join Ron Hassey as the only major league catchers who have caught 2 perfect games. That's strike 1 to Castro. One of those perfect games caught by Ron Hassey was thrown by the Astros bullpen coach, Dennis Martinez.
Astros hitters here, I mean, you want to be selective, but you got to be aggressive at the same time. You got to want to be the guy that's going to break up history right here.
Grounded in the hole, and plenty of time for Andrus. 1 out.
Yeah, this crowd on their feet sound like they're pretty wholeheartedly open to seeing a perfect game tonight.
If you're going to show up to the ballpark and you have a chance to witness history, why not?
Yeah.
25 straight retired by Yu Darvish. Carlos Corcoran is 0 for 2. He hit the liner that was speared by Moreland at first in the 6th inning. He also grounded back to the pitcher. So Corcoran has made contact both times. Marwin Gonzalez is on deck. Grounded to second. Routine for Kinsler. Now 1 out away from perfection.
For the skipper, Ron Washington, this inning couldn't have started any better with quick outs.
So true.
110 pitches for Darvish. And Gonzalez, who was struck out and grounded out, will come up again.
I apologize for talking too much. I'm partially excited about seeing this in person.
You're only partially excited.
Yeah, well, I am cheering for the white, the white uniform here, but Yu Darvish has put on an absolute clinic, and I'm just impressed for watching a guy be this good for this many innings.
Up the middle and into center field.
Oh, no!
Oh, my.
Attaboy, Marwin.
Marwin Gonzalez breaks up the perfect game bid with 2 outs in the 9th.
Such a mixed reaction from the crowd even.
A big smile on the face of Yu Darvish, and that shows that this guy has a pretty good perspective on this game.
He's coming out of the game now.
If he gets a glove or body on that, he's got his perfect game. Wow.
111 pitches.
That is amazing.
Yep, right through the wickets.
Yeah, the 5-hole got exploited. Man,
gosh. That has got to be a tough pill to swallow.
That'll force a guy to learn some of the language here in America.
Some of the more inappropriate language. I like it. They probably learned that instantly coming over, but that was a fantastic performance.
A special night for Japanese-born Yu Darvish. 8 2/3 innings of 1-hit baseball with no walks and 14 strikeouts, a career high.
And A.J. Pierzynski is thinking, I can't believe that second perfect game got away from me.
Yep, oh, so close.
It's one thing to lose a shutout or a no-hitter, but good grief, a perfect game.
Well, you talked about it, Ash, with Mike Scott, who did pitch that no-hitter to clinch, but had other flirtations. Nolan Ryan, a lot of guys who come so close just never get it. Maybe 2 outs in the 9th inning, as Darvish has just done. It's so hard to do.
As you mentioned those names, Mike Scott and Nolan Ryan, after I had the genuine pleasure of catching 3 no-hitters, I got into the 9th inning with 1 out for Nolan, and I might add that he shook me off a couple of times on Mike Schmidt and left a breaking ball that Schmidt was able to thumb into center field for a base hit. And then Mike Scott, 2 outs in the 9th inning. Ken Oberkfell came to the plate as a pinch hitter and hit a splitter into right field, a little soft liner that broke up the no-hit bid. 2 outs again into the 9th inning, and that would have been number 2 for Scotty, and for Nolan, just one of the myriad that he threw.
Colby Lewis of the Rangers pitched a 2-hitter here in June of 2010. That's the low-hit game in the Lone Star Series. He gave up a run in that one, won it 5-1. And now Ron Washington has made the move to his bullpen.
What a guy that can smile at that moment.
That is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw that replay earlier. You could see him. They zoomed in on him. The reaction with the ball off the bat. You could see it. He kind of tried to knock it down, but as soon as he realized he didn't get a glove on it, you could see his he just knew it was over.
So if you're Yu Darvish, are you concerned that every time you give up a single this year, you're going to be yanked?
Yeah, what do you got to do to get a complete game?
Lefty Michael Kirkman comes in to face Jose Altuve, who's 0 for 3. Darvish watching in a 7-0 game. Altuve has struck out twice and popped a second. Kirkman 1-2 last year with a 3.82 ERA. Kirkman's from Lake City, Florida, 26 years old.
I told you somebody was going to break up history.
So hard to do, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, one out left. Marwin Gonzalez goes up there and has the gall to go up there and swing at the first pitch heater he gets.
Was it Dave Steve that had a couple of 2 outs in the ninth inning? No-nos taken from him. One with a routine ground ball to second base that hit something and went right up and over.
Oh, boy. Oh, so close to a perfect game for you, Darvish. Liner into right center. Now Altuve has followed the hit with one of his own, and Gonzalez goes first to third on the Altuve single. Off Michael Kirkman. And it's a pinch hitter now. J.D. Martinez batting for Brett Wallace.
Houston Astro batters probably elated to have you out of the game right now and have him sitting on that bench.
Matt Dominguez is on deck. Carlos Pena due up next. Wallace was 0 for 3 with 3 punch-outs. Martinez coming up. JD fouls it back. JD initially had not made the Astros opening day 25-man roster, but he got a late reprieve at the 11th hour and was added to the roster when Fernando Martinez was placed on the 15-day disabled list.
This is a great way as a manager. You get a chance to get another guy in the ball game and kind of get it taken care of. You're in a ball game and you can loosen up.
No balls, 2 strikes.
I really believe it's incumbent upon the managers to try to get as many guys in games early on in the season and allow them to relax and feel like a part of the team.
Yeah, you get so many ABs in spring training. It really helps out maintaining that timing and rhythm that they've developed in spring.
And tight from Kirkman. It's 1-2.
And guys that aren't playing a whole lot when you start the regular season are likely the guys that were on all the long bus trips in spring training and packing on the miles and the at-bats.
Got to throw him a bone every once in a while.
Sure. JD drove in 55 last year. Taps it foul.
Yeah, that led the ball club. I thought that was kind of intriguing. A guy that led the team in RBIs didn't make the club coming out of the next spring.
Pretty unusual. JD had surgery in late September on his left hamate bone. Chokes up a little bit on the bat now after that.
What was going on in the mind of Yu Darvish right there?
2-2. Well, things had gone so well, maybe he thought that they would continue to go that well for one more batter.
That was just a ground ball back to the mound.
Yep.
But again, it found that 5-hole and on into center field. Mature young man.
Apparently really mixes it up, likes to have a lot of fun with his teammates. He knows English well and has fit right into the Rangers club. 3-2 now. Dominguez waiting and hoping for a chance to bat. But the Astros down 7-0. And that's cued foul past Dave Clark at first. Day game tomorrow, and then Thursday's an off day before the Oakland A's are here over the weekend. And then on the first road trip, the Astros will go to Seattle and Anaheim and Oakland, so they'll get a pretty good early season look at their rivals in the AL West. Altuve takes off at strike 3, and that ends the game as Darvish collaborates on a 2-hitter with Kirkman, and the Rangers square this series at 1 game each. It was perfect until 2 outs in the 9th inning when Marwin Gonzalez saw a first pitch he liked and shot a single through the legs of Yu Darvish into center field for one of just 2 Houston hits in the game.
A rare fastball up out over the plate. That was a unique situation tonight because not many hitters had any kind of chance like this.
You better be smiling after that. Just broke up history and ruined that guy's night right there.
Very few happy at-bats for the Astros in this game as the Rangers win at 7-0. Darvish the winner, Lucas Harrell the loser. Rangers out-hit the Astros 12-2, and we'll be right back.